They didn't know, Kev. They only saw Eugene, CJ, and Dongalord hiding behind the house, waiting patiently. If that 4005 could blow up Rainbow in one shot.
Oh, great trades coming forward, though, from the Bulldogs. You can see how much HP has been bled out, and now Madhouse can come into the equation.
JS now, one shot away from getting rid of Gubov. What a tracking shot. And now they'll be able to continue this train rolling. Just look at all these tanks coming around the corner. Time to find out how this is going to work out for Panthers, because they need to start putting some of that damage back onto speed. Oh my word. Inevitably, Knight dies to 2 Batchat. That's just a given. But it's a question of how much damage comes through. Oh, never mind. It's just 1 Batchat now. Great shot. He's the one that's being more mobile. He's the one that's trying to look for this engagement.
Yes.
He hits the shot.
Hello and welcome into ANZPL Season 3, our second last week of the season. Every week, gents, we start this off with that awesome intro, the clip, right? We all know it finishes on Wymo celebrating. Not going to see much Wymo celebrating anymore for Season 3. Certainly wasn't last week, that's for sure, because the Sentinels and the Skorpions were... We do get to see them tonight, and it was the game we were waiting for. It's a week too early. Last week was crazy. I don't know how we got here. I was expecting maybe we would get 1 upset, but we got 2 upsets, Jordan. I feel like we are living in an alternate reality.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying at the end of last week that actually these matches that we would be looking at in the third place game and the grand final were the matches that we expected to see, or at least the matchups that we expected to see, just not in those respective slots, right? This week, we probably would have been expecting to see the match that we're going to be watching next week, and vice versa. This week, we would be expecting to see next week. So, yeah, a little bit surprising, but hey, it's probably going to lend towards a fairly exciting third place battle, I think, and also a pretty interesting grand final. Because for me, you know, for both of these matches, I'm not really sure whether or not there's a team coming into it as the massive favorite. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think it's once we got the first upset last week, I was kind of concerned, Kev, that maybe that would skew the finals or whatever one way or another. But actually, based on what we've seen, it kind of feels like Jordan says we should have 2 really close games on our hand. The third place matchup tonight, and then the grand final Saturday next week.
Yeah, Scorpions and Sentinels is always going to be that classical matchup. I always feel like time and time again, doesn't matter what the scenario is, we're going to get a good watching, a good entertainment at the end of the day. And even looking ahead towards next week, outside of the show match, which is always the best part, obviously, of the grand finals. I'm not really there for the finals. Always there to see J Raider getting lit on fire once again. That's always my favorite part. I think Panthers and Matildas, I feel like that's actually more appropriate to have these 2 teams in the finals. One's a Cinderella story. Everyone wants a team that absolutely sucks to come out of absolutely nowhere. You think about the movies, the Mighty Ducks, that was the Matildas last season.
Quack, yep.
Quack, maybe they'll make their way, and it's like the second or third movie, right? I can't remember. I've watched it in ages. Or maybe the Panthers can actually make reality come true and make Perth relevant for the first time in 30 years. So we'll figure out how it goes.
A little bit rough.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Kind of looking at this week, obviously Scorpions and Sentinels, and obviously the B League finals as well, which is going to be really, really, really cool because we get to see the upcoming talent play and kind of see who's going to be playing in the next season ANZPL.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see if there are some B League fans in here tonight. Welcome to all the B League fans. We are doing the B League final. It may seem weird to you that you can see all of the casters with light, not just one of them, like in the B League, but we're happy to bring you into the light.
Bit of a better production
JT did buy a couple of light bulbs last week. I did notice that. So yeah, he really stepped up production quality.
We can only be mean to him so many times. All right, let's take a look at last week's results, and we can kind of officially go through, because last week, as I said, it was a wild ride. It was the Skorpions and the Melbourne Matildas. The Skorpions coming in as seed 2, the Matildas coming in as seed 3. And, you know, we kind of felt this should be, it should be kind of close, but the Skorpions should get it. I did put the Matildas down Jordan to win, and I was accurate. But I was also actually quite surprised.
Yeah, look, I don't really know. I think for me, if we talk about Skorpions, there's always these. I said it last week. I feel like there's a lot of choking going on for them when they come to the big games, and I don't know where that necessarily comes from. Is that from the individuals? Is that from the team structure, the culture, or something else? It just doesn't seem like they perform as well as we would expect them to in games that really, really matter. On the flip side of the coin, I feel like Melbourne Matildas kind of did the exact opposite. They had a really bad run into finals, I thought, and I thought this was going to be a real clean sweep for them, for Skorpions. But Melbourne Matildas, they seem to step up. They had some really good individual moments, and a lot of nice setups as well that kind of seemed to catch Skorpions off guard. So to me, I mean, obviously you say, yeah, that was an upset, even though you predicted the way for Matildas. I agree, except I predicted for Skorpions. And so I was kind of up the creek without a paddle. In fact, yes, I think last week I was the only one that got 0 from 2.
Yeah, because I let you go first in predicting in Discord, right? Baited you into picking the two, the quote unquote, the real picks. And I thought I'd throw on something weird, and Kev thought he'd throw on something weird as well. And you ended up getting both of yours wrong. So that's a little bit feels bad. It's more feels bad the Skorpions and the Sentinels, I guess. We know now the Sentinels aren't going to get their back-to-back-to-back victory. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, though, let's be real. And I think they're in pretty good spot for any future competition, that's for sure. But Kev, the wild one for me was this Panthers team. Up until a few weeks ago, it was kind of like, well, congrats, guys. You beat the Conquerors, but the Conquerors were the other team at the bottom of the ladder with you. And then it just kind of progressed from there. I did think that the Panthers had really improved and they'd grown as a team, and it was great to see. But I'm going to be honest, there was no way that I thought that they were going to take down the Sentinels last week. And to do it the way they did, to do it 4-2, to come through, drive down the creek in Sand River on defense, it was pretty wild.
Yeah, and the context was, if you missed that series, which was an absolute blinder, I think that's one of the series that you should go back and kind of watch. Any team or any person that's playing tanks and really looking to kind of create these upset stories on how you're creating upsets and everything like that. That's a perfect storyline. You can't write it better. Panthers come racing 3-0 off the gates, and then they lose the next 2. And it's their defense of Sand River. They try something a bit different. Finally, something does work against the Sentinels. And look, I think towards the end, both I kind of see where Jordan was coming from, saying the Matildas maybe weren't looking as dominant as they probably should have on paper. But I felt like the last couple of weeks were decent enough where I went, yeah, they're the underdog, but maybe there's a chance of victory. I'd agree, though, Panthers, I don't think anyone saw it coming. Even in their peak in form, the question was always going to be, all right, you've taken down Adelaide Action X, you've taken down the Conquerors, you've taken down the Bulldogs. I mean, you knew the Bulldogs towards the end weren't the strongest opposition. So it was still out. Everyone likes, like I said, a Cinderella story at the beginning, but it was still out of the realms of possibility, and how it happened. It's still a little bit surreal.
Yeah. Some really crazy strats, like really throwing it out there. Again, I like to go back to if we were to look back on this later and we were to read the story of how we won, how do you think that what is the real potential here for how we win? Are we playing like a traditional strategy? Are we doing something a little bit out of the box? And I kind of feel like the Panthers did go out of the box, and maybe the Sentinels weren't expecting it. The Panthers came to win. They really did take it to them. And I don't know, maybe we're going to see a little bit of a shift, in time to come, because I thought it was pretty crazy. It certainly is at times a coin flip, but I think 5v5 can at times be like that, and that's why it's exciting. So the Panthers brought the excitement last week, and that earns them a week off this week, along with the Matildas, and a shot at the top spot next week. So let's go and take a look at that finals bracket, and we can kind of recap just how we got here. There we go, that grand final. It's Saturday next weekend, not the Friday night. We're doing it on the Saturday, and then tonight is the third place match. And don't forget, if you are in Melbourne next weekend, Fortress is hosting a watch party for the grand final. You can register your ticket at tiny.cc/WOT watch party. Doors open at 6 p.m. Saturday, 13th of November. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're all super jealous that we can't be there, but you guys, if you can be there, you definitely should. It's going to be a well time for sure. But tonight's that third place match. Again, we look at it, we go, well, these are the two games we thought that we were going to see, Jordan. There's just no world that I thought we were going to be seeing the Sentinels and the Skorpions tonight.
Yeah, I think for both of those two teams, that'll be a pretty disappointing result because, because they were the two teams that sort of topped the league at the end of the regulation season. Sentinels first and Skorpions second in terms of seeding coming into the semifinals. But not only for that, but also the fact that obviously Sentinels could have gone back to back to back. So you're missing out on that storyline and they're missing out on that opportunity. And this is now the second time that the Skorpions have made it through to the semifinals and have failed to make it through to the grand final. And it sort of felt like this was going to be the season that the Skorpions would be able to do that. You know, I thought last season was a little bit shaky. They didn't really have a great run into the semifinals, and if I remember correctly, their semifinal matchup wasn't a very favorable one anyway. But this one, you know, they came in as the favorites. They probably should have been able to walk away with a win, albeit maybe a close one against Matildas, and then they sort of capitulated. So for me, I think, yeah, definitely very disappointing for both Sentinels and Skorpions, and I'm sort of interested to see what kind of form they come into today's game with, you know, because we always look at those third place games, and if you go back last season, I don't think Skorpions looked all that great in that one against Matildas when they played against each other in that third place match. So, you know, are they going to come back and sort of bounce back from last week in this game, or is the Sentinels just going to sort of walk all over them, or maybe even Sentinels going to suffer from the same issues that cropped up for Skorpions last season?
Yeah, I think it can be a little bit too easy for teams to sort of give up the third place match sometimes and not put it in. But I think there's $500 difference between the two. Plus, you came third and not fourth. So I don't know. For me, I think there's still a ton of value in it. And this is the game we wanted to see. So, you know, I would have been a little bit sad if the Sentinels and the Skorpions had got knocked out without a chance to see them one more time this season. So that's exciting. That one's going to be coming up a little bit later tonight. Now, Alienware, as we know, have been supporting us all season long. Each week we check out their leaderboards, and through the final series, we are going through the winners of each leaderboard. Last week, I think, was the Sharpshooter. Gave away 27-inch Alienware monitor. This week is the Alienware All-Stars. This is our Fantasy League points, and Russian sitting up there, nice and cool, Sonny's World of Tanks hat. And he comes out on top after the regular season. He'll be heading home with an Alienware monitor. So congrats to Russian. Kev, Bales falling short again. It's kind of funny. Some is actually pretty close, to be fair. Like, a lot of these guys are pretty close. But when you look at that total Fantasy League points, and the fact, I guess, that Russian played 37 battles, I'm not 100% sure how that works, but he's got the most points, got the most battles, goes home with the monitor. Easy win.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the difference there of about, 4,000 damage between Russian and Bales, which is, when you're looking on the scale of 36 to 37 battles, it's microscopic. The gap between position 1 and position 2 is that small, and then Whippet's just out there just going, all right, I guess I'm doing pretty well, but also at the same time, not close enough to really compete at the top position. And Rainbow and Speed, who I felt like both had pretty good seasons on the Sentinels. I think Rainbow definitely towards the end picked things up, and Speed was always a consistent performer, so not surprised to see them end up there at the bottom of the All-Stars. And when I say at the bottom, it's still the top of the league,
yeah,
right?
Top 5 of the league, which isn't not a bad place to be, Kev, that's for sure.
But you can see even there, like, look at the gap, 20,000 difference. That is almost 20% difference between the first place and 5th place, or even 4th place in this case, which is just showing how exceptional Russian and even Bale's season has really been over this entire 7 to 8 week period.
And to think, Jordan, I didn't even pick Russian tonight. So it feels bad. Too many stars for me. A little bit too expensive.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's too. I think 5 stars in this current format is a little bit too expensive, because there's like for tonight, especially for these guys, there's like literally no 2 stars or 1 stars that you can pick that are going to get games. So unless there's a massive curveball thrown in, I agree. I didn't pick any 5 stars either. I didn't pick
Speed's
Rainbow.
The best value. He's the only 4 star out of the top 5 as well. So Speed, if you had Speed all season long, you probably came out okay, because looking pretty good. Lots of points up there.
Yep.
But yeah, congrats to Russian. He'll pick up that monitor, and of course the prize of being our inaugural Alienware All-Star. Next week, I think we're seeing who our MVP is, and next week during the grand final, we're going to get to give away that Alienware X15 laptop. If you want to find out more, Alienware in chat. Again, thanks to them. They've been a massive support of ANZPL Season 3, and I'm sure the players who pick up some of these peripherals are going to be very, very happy with that one. So, been a pretty good season for giveaways, gents. We've been giving away HyperX gear every week. We've been giving away Alienware gear. We've got our Noble chairs. People can win stuff in Fantasy League. There's prize money available. But for me, I think one of the coolest prizes that we're giving away this season is a year's supply of coffee. And that's all thanks to Ironside Coffee Co. as part of the Ironside ANZPL Hot Shot competition. Now, each and every week, we put up the top 4 clips on social media. Everyone's had a chance on a Monday night to come through and vote for their favorite clip. And after 7 weeks of play, we have our 7 top clips, Kev, and they're ready to be voted for. So, if you think about it, that's actually a lot of tanks. So these clips should be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best of every single week, right? So everyone's voted on the best of the week, and then now it's going to be that accumulation for there's a year supply of coffee. Jeez, I don't even know what I'm going to do with all that coffee. I'll probably drink it every single day, at least twice.
It's a lot of
I don't know
coffee.
about you.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a lot of coffee. I drank Ironside coffee today, by the way. I've got, as I said, last time I spoke at this, I had 4 bags of the APCR blend, which I think is sold out, which came out last year. Now I have 3 bags left, and I'm working my way through it. So in 3 weeks from now, I'll probably have 0 bags left and be very, very sad. But you don't have to be sad. You can enter and get involved with this. You can vote for this right now as well. So !Ironside in chat. If you want to find out more, it should take you through so you can vote. And then from there, pick your top clip. Jordan, do you have a top clip? There's 7 to pick from here. But
yeah.
You must have a favorite.
I think I'm torn between a couple, and I'm also surprised that the Bolognese versus Twit fight didn't make it in.
Yeah, me too.
I thought that was definitely a shoe-in from, if I remember correctly, that was from week 6. But from the ones that are here, of the 7 that I get to choose from, I think it's either between week 2 and week 4. Cleaning House was a good one because, I always like to see Madhouse just getting absolutely wrecked.
Yeah.
And in that one, he rolls around a corner and gets boomed. And then in week 4, if I remember correctly, that was a full HP E100 getting one shot by a Yard Panzer. So I think that's, I don't know. For me, probably week 4, I guess. But week 2 is sort of a special mention.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty good. I agree. I was surprised that the bowl clip, which was literally the clip that got the Panthers through, right, to their 1 point from that clip going that way and Bowl losing that fight, got the Panthers through by 1 point to get the tiebreaker win over the Archers, Action X, over the Action X, to get through to 4th place so they could beat the Sentinels last week so they could make it through the grand final. So that's a pretty crazy one. But for me, I don't know. I like seeing Rabo get assassinated as well. Anyway, !Ironside in chat if you want to find out more. It'll take you through how to vote. You just pick which one you like, A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. Put it in there. You've got a chance to win a year's supply of Ironside coffee. Not a bad place to be. All right, that's our promos for the night done and dusted. Let's have a chat about tonight's matches, gents. It's going to be the B-League Grand Final. The Wollongong Wolverines up against the Lismore Leopards. It's going to be our first matchup of the night. And as we've said 5 times now, it's going to be the Sentinels up against the Skorpions as our 3rd placed match of the night. I think we can probably just go straight through and take a look at our caster predictions, and we can chat through maybe why we have predicted what we have predicted. Elfish guy, big forehead. Look at that. He's got the Leopards and the Sentinels. I've got the Wolverines and the Skorps. That's not my prediction, by the way.
I feel like that's the wrong way around. I feel like I predicted for Wolverines and Skorpions.
You did. I have a motto: never throw production under the bus, except when they get your predictions wrong. I picked the Leopards and the Sents. You would have picked the Wolverines and the Skorps. And what have you got? Did you pick the Leopards and the Sents as well, Kev? You copied me, right?
I did, but I think I might have been a little bit fried when doing it because now looking at it on paper, I was like, oh yeah, Leopards look pretty good, and then I forgot it's the Wollongong people are pretty scary. I don't know if you met a guy before from Wollongong, but he could bench press all of us combined. So yeah, maybe should have gone for the Wolverines.
Well, if
instead.
it was just you and Elfish guy, that wouldn't be much because your combined weight's like 50 kilos. But when you add me on board, that's a lot to bench press. So
he could probably bench all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Now we've all got the same prediction. So there we go. All right, that's it. That's what I think the correct one is. Now, I picked the Leopards because I was in the Leopards in high school. That was a very long time ago. And the Sentinels because I don't have faith in the Skorpions and their mental tonight. But maybe when the pressure's off, they don't care. We'll talk about that one a little bit later. But I think it's time to break down our B-League Grand Final. It's the Wolverines up against the Leopards. It's been a long time coming, gents. So I'm kind of keen for this one. I've been keeping my eye on the B-League all season long. I haven't been able to watch every night, but I reckon I probably caught about half of it. And for this one, Kev, you look at the Wolverines, they've dropped 3 battles all season long.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I was a little bit fried probably because I was looking at the win rate statistics and I thought I went with a team that had like the more wins. And we're talking about this beforehand. The fact that they've only dropped 3 maps across all these opposition, it's a pretty good sign for them. They're coming in as red hot favorites, even dumpstering the Hellcats 4-0 as well. It's a pretty dominant statement, especially when you're coming into this. Either it's like and I was watching some of it. I think I saw them playing against the Hellcats in Ghost Town last week, if I remember correctly. And it wasn't the case of it being a close 4-0. I think some of the maps, it was just, they were rolling. They were having like 3 or 4 tanks alive. They were like up in so much in the entire time. Yeah, it just feels like synergy-wise, the team's a good fit. Like if you asked me about this team and you said, is there any exceptional players? I'd go, I don't really think so. I think that you've got solid players in them, but not superstar players. Not like fantastic players where we're talking about like 10k, 11k PR players. Solid players that I've played with the 4-on-1 AR. Guys that have accounted across in Lime. No slouches. But it looks like sometimes you just want a good team composition and a good fit versus maybe just individual egos and superstars. And that might be what's pulled Wolverines ahead this season.
Jordan, we mentioned it before, 3 battles lost across the season. I was like, I'll go see what maps these guys like. And then I opened it up and it was like 100% win rate, 100% win rate, 100% win rate, and then they dropped a couple. And I was like, well, that pretty much sums up, I think, B-League by the sounds of it.
Yeah, look, I mean, I haven't watched a huge amount of B-League, but I did do my research coming into that prediction, and that's pretty much the reason why I went for Wolverines for this first game. I thought, like, how can you predict against them at this point when they've had a completely clean run in the regular season? They've barely lost any maps, and they obviously beat the Leopards as well in regular season 3-1, which was a relatively convincing scoreline in my mind. So, that was part of the reason. And of course, the fact that Leopards have Skell on their roster. So I thought, how can I predict for some washed up guy that used to play in WGL, international player? He's coming to the B League of ANZPL. He can't even win that. I'm definitely not predicting for Skell. So, that's the other reason.
What are we
going to
do tonight without his summary? Like,
oh well, he'll be here later.
He'd be like, Skell played poorly. Wolverines did well.
By the way,
yeah,
I have an anecdote of the one time I played in Clan Wars with Skell.
Okay, sure, yep.
We were playing on Sand River, and I drove down, the hill in the middle into the valley, and he drove his IS-7 on top of me, and I got stuck. And I couldn't move, and then he got stuck, and so we both couldn't move, and I was underneath him, and he crushed me to death. So that's another reason why I don't like Skell. I just had to put it out there.
Did you win?
Nice.
No, we lost because of that.
Well, anyway, it looked like they started off their season a little bit slow, right? The comments didn't come out all that well, I think, in the standings anyway, and a 3-2 up against them, like just close enough to get through the win, and then. Really, the only other issue after that was that game against the Wolverines, and they've already lost to them. But what we know, right, is that when it comes to finals, when it comes to this time of the season, everything kind of changes. So let's go and take a look at our map picks because I think that's going to play a bit of a part tonight as well. Obviously, it's not our traditional 4 battles / best of 5. It's a best of 7. The pressure is on. You need to go a little bit further. And if there are, any issues in a team, it is when the pressure is on during the finals when I think it comes down to it. Kev, we look at the maps. Is there anything you can take away from this? I think we're pretty close to to jumping into game now. I know you and I are on the Leopards, but this Wolverines team looks pretty good.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they've got the brawling potential down. So even looking at those highlight clips and even Ghost Town and the way that they're playing, they want to try to isolate into a couple of close quarters. I think Ghost Town may really work out for the Wolverines. Himmelsdorf, they're going to be pretty strong. I saw a Foshby being picked, so hopefully a couple of off-meta tanks. I hope it gets to Prokhorovka, because the reason why I say I hope it gets there is because I want to see both teams being tested in terms of how they take a map and how they maintain map control and the understanding of the fundamentals. Maps like Himmelsdorf and Ghost Town, it sometimes boils down to you watch specific corridors. Prokhorovka is a lot more difficult to control. And similarly, Cliff is an okay tiebreaker. It should favor Wolverines if it goes there just because of the brawl nature, but I'll wait until we get there and see.
Yeah, I'm excited by how this plays out. If we do get to the tiebreaker, I love Cliff as a tiebreaker. I think it's a good map. It's always giving him some pretty crazy battles and a little bit less one-sided than some, perhaps. But this is it. The B-League Grand Final. Absolute pleasure here to have it on the ANZPL broadcast, our second last broadcast of the season. I think it's fantastic. We get a chance to see these teams duke it out, and Jordan, maybe some ANZPL players in the future. Maybe we can just roll this entire Wolverines team through. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I think for me that's the most exciting thing about getting to watch this grand final. Or I guess not only the fact that we obviously get to see which of these two teams walks away with the win in the B-League, but also you get that idea of maybe who we might see coming through into the next season of ANZPL. Because that did happen this season. We got, I think, Stewie and Critical were the two players that moved up from the B-League this season, and both of them have been pretty good additions to the league. So be excited to see, maybe someone like 99 Destroyer. I think he's been having some good performances. God Mode, I looked at the stats as well and seemed to be someone that stood out a little bit for the Wolverines. Maybe these are the guys that we'll see next season in ANZPL. But focusing on the game at hand, Kev, not too surprising in terms of the tank selections, which to me actually is something that I felt was not quite what we would get. I watched a couple of the B-League games, maybe 3 weeks ago or a little while ago. I can't remember how long it was, but there was some weird team comps. I'll say that much. But what we've got here actually seems to be relatively standard.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time you think that B-League would just look at exactly the principles of what ANZPL has been played on and try to utilize the same tanks in the same way that you play things. But we do see a couple of different tank picks. We see a lot more 5As. I think we saw... Yeah, just weird tank picks. I think we saw a couple of 140s as well. And the reason why the 140 is just not played that much these days is because of the HP difference. Sure, it's got okay DPM, but the problem is when you've got a tank that's middle of the map pool, or not the middle of the map pool, should I say, middle of the tank pool. It's kind of good at everything, but it's not fantastic at something. There's a tank that's always going to be better than it. So that's why you don't see the 140 that often, even though I've got a bit of a soft spot for that tank being one of my favorite mediums. That's, I think, the reason why it's not played so much in ANZPL and why we're not seeing it, because on paper it's good. Reality is you want to get somewhere faster, CS63. If you want something that's got better DPM, STB1.
If you have skill on your team, put him on an E100. He can't really make too many tanks on that tank, even though he used to be a light tank player back in the WGL days.
This is, I think going into this fight, this is really smart on how Leopards have actually isolated these angles. Like, they've managed to sneak all their tanks into the low ground. Now, Skell's dying, which is usual standard for par. And what's not good for the Leopards is the fact that they missed a lot of these shots. I do feel like some of them didn't land on their mark, and the problem is Wolverines are not missing. And so all of a sudden, it's like what was a decently favorable scenario for the Leopards has become a bit of an awkward one.
I mean, it's not too bad. It's not too bad because those two Batchats have managed to collapse on top of the one single tank that was on the one line for the Wolverines. They've taken that one down, and E100 also falls, and eventually Leopards are starting to chunk through some of this HP pool that the Wolverines do have. With that said, Kev, though, I mean, you've still got a full HP Batchat in the picture here for the Wolverines. And, you've also sort of got a couple there for the Leopards. So there are still some playmaking tanks available, and this could still kind of slip one way or the other.
I think it's over. My name didn't push down and try to take down these E100s. That's it. Like, the Batchats over here, the two Batchats, their sole goal is that they just need to go after God Mode, right? That's all you need to do. You'll always win that at the end of the day. Unfortunately, it's that missed opportunity. There was a slight window where the Super Kongs could have out DPM'd the E100s. That would have been a different story, but I just saw yes just getting isolated and just allowing, and my name didn't fit, just didn't come into the fight. He kind of preserved his HP, and now it's just going to be outswarmed, outmassed, beaten down by the numbers, and that's it. It's going to be GG from there. So Leopards actually going at 1-0 so far in the series. That's a bit of a surprise for me.
Yeah, not a bad result there for the Leopards, I'm going to be honest with you. Attacking side of Ghost Town, great way to start off the grand final, and particularly when the Wolverines had lost 3 battles for the whole season.
And you've just added Ghost Town.
Yeah, exactly. And you've just added 1. You've added a 33% to that tally. So that's not a bad way to start. Now, Jordan, we do know Ghost Town was the pick of the Leopards, but you and Kev were talking about some peculiar tanks. It weren't the 10 tanks you thought you'd see on the battlefield?
No. I mean, for me, more so that was kind of a little bit more par for the course today. But what I was referring to was like some of the previous weeks I'd watched of the B League. I saw some like interesting tank selections.
B League had been out there more, and this was more standard.
Yeah, this was a little bit more standard. So, I mean, maybe that makes sense, right? When you get to the grand final, you get the better teams, the better players, the ones that have probably been paying a bit more attention to the Pro League, ANZPL, and, you know, you sort of copy-paste from there and you figure out what you want to do. I mean, Double Super Conqueror, E100, 113, Bat Chat, these are all tanks that don't really go amiss on a map like Ghost Town. And on the other side of the field, I think we had like double E100, you know, a Super Conqueror or 2 in there and a couple of Bat Chats as well. So, it wasn't really a big surprise, really, when it came to that. And I think kind of what made the difference here for me, for the Leopards, was the usage of the 2 Bat Chats. 99 Destroyer and Gloucester doing a great job. You know, you're sitting about 2.5 to 3K from both of those 2 guys. And if you get that much damage out of your Bat Chats and the fact that they both survived the game as well, you're pretty much going to win. Like, there's no world where if you have 2 Bat Chats alive at the end of the game, and they've done that much damage already, you're not going to find a way to walk away with the win. So overall, you know, really nice decisive push coming through from them. And they got the other 3 tanks in first to sort of cause a bit of a distraction. And then they were inevitably able to swarm Barricade, who was in that 113 over on the 1 line. And he didn't really have much that he could do about it. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? If you're in 113, you're isolated against 2 Bat Chats, you don't really have many options but to die and try and get as much damage out as you can. And he gets a couple shots out. Granted, yes, well done from him, but you know, ultimately, it doesn't necessarily help when Wolverines just basically are tanked down.
Yeah, it was pretty rough, and that makes way more sense because I was like, E100s, Super Conquerors, Bat Chats, this looks pretty standard to me. But now it all makes sense. Kev, apart from the fact that I think the Leopards have one of the best camos in the game, to be fair, the Wolverines, I think these are some of the best camos we've seen at all. I think both of these are great. But what are your thoughts here? Good Bat Chat use, obviously. Leopards sitting out with like 3 tanks alive at the end of the battle, 2 of those being Bat Chats. If you get to that point and that's how you're sitting, I guess the game's probably gone pretty well for you.
Yeah, for me, it's like Leopards came into this with a game plan. They executed on it really well. So the Bat Chats isolating the 113 alongside with the fact that you had the tanks pushing low ground. That's not something I've seen before in ANZPL. That's something where you can kind of see the principle and why. You break up the crossfire, you get your Bat Chats into a good firing corridor, then all your heavies kind of come in and brawl it out. The problem I had, honestly, I think, and that's coming from the nerves from the Wolverines, is that they didn't count the Bat Chat shots. There should always be a player counting the Bat Chat shots, so that wasn't called. So as a result, and this is like, I'm trying to look at the rationale on why the Super Conks split up, is that potentially my name didn't fit, didn't realize, or it wasn't communicated to him that the Bat Chats were clipped out and already were relocating. Because you needed X amount of shots to kill a 113. Someone should have been counting. Barricade should have been calling. Okay, this guy's on this many shots, this guy's on this many shots. He doesn't help in the fight. All of a sudden, Leopards win that. So if they make this a 2-0, this is going to be really, really good for them going ahead best of 7.
Yeah, great start here from the Leopards. Can they pick up the defensive side of Ghost Town? The Wolverines have been smashing it all season long. They haven't lost a match. They'd lost 3 battles up until tonight. But Ghost Town is the pick here of the Leopards. So let's see what they've got in store.
I must admit, I agree, Ben. I think that is a very, very cool camo. It certainly fits, doesn't it? But
yeah.
Makes it easy when you can just copy-paste essentially what is an animal.
These are actually... I love both of these camos. I don't know if they just got to the finals because they had the best camos. It looked like they won the matches as well, so I guess that's why they're here, but it looks really cool.
They do say you got to dress for success, right? So get that for these 2 teams. Having a look at the tank compositions here, Kev, before we get into the thick of things. We do have an IS-7 for Flaming, and I like the position that he's playing that one in. Nice little hold down spot for the IS-7 to play from. Double E100, 113, and Bat Chat to round things out for the Leopards. You do also have that single Bat Chat on the side of Wolverines, comprising the other tanks of a sort of heavy tank nature, which I kind of like this, right? We've got the 2 Bat Chats, one on either side. They get to sort of flit around the outskirts of the map, and then the other 4 guys just sort of trying to brawl it out in mid. I feel like that's the best way to play on Ghost Town. Sometimes the double bat chat can sometimes feel a little bit redundant to me. So I kind of like what we've got here. It's sort of a nice mix of heavy and medium.
Yeah, enough mobility where you can really utilize your tanks. And already you're seeing actually 99 rotating that bat chat nice and early on. He was sitting around A4. Very similar spread to what we saw from the Wolverines. But this time around, actually, they're deciding to kind of get the tanks moving around a little bit more. Now, I do find it interesting they don't actually go for a Super Conqueror on the side of the Leopards, right? You've got 2 E100s, lots of HP you need to chunk through. Then you've got an IS-7. And my question is always going to be, and I don't know what your thoughts are, Jordan. Would you prefer a Super Conquer that position where the IS-7 is, or do you think the IS-7 might be a little bit more maneuverable and being able to kind of move around, getting it into the brawl a little bit quicker might be what they need on the defensive side?
Well, I think if you've got the 113 out on the one line, you probably do want that extra bit of mobility from the IS-7. Because there's a bit more of a spread from the Leopards, you are in a higher likelihood going to have to move your tanks around a little bit. So having the IS-7 there, and of course the 113 out on the outskirts, does mean that you've got 2 of your quote-unquote more mobile heavy tanks in positions where if someone has to rotate, they're probably going to be the ones to do it. And inevitably, you know, that's going to put you in a bit of a better position. With that said, the spot that the IS-7 is in is a position, is a kind of a corridor that does get attacked a lot. So maybe you're right. Maybe the argument that a Super Conqueror there would be a better option. I don't know. I just like the IS-7 because I feel like it's a little bit more difficult to dig out than the Super Conqueror, personally. It sort of feels like it's a real pain, and you have to kind of get on top of it, which is going to put you out of position here if you're the Wolverines, rather than, you know, the Super Conqueror. I mean, obviously it's got that nice damage output, but it's a fairly inflexible tank. Once you put it in a position, you just have to hope that it can do some damage.
Yeah, can't really rotate. Very fragile. IS-7, even to the sides of it, sometimes it can work out occasionally if someone rushes their shot. Doesn't really put it through the correct position, especially with a lot of the bat chats running heat these days. If they're running heat as their first clip, yeah, heat into the side of the IS-7, it just goes funny. And oftentimes you might not actually want to run. I think it depends, right? Do you run like an APCR as a first clip as a bat chat? Because I do personally. And then change the heat once you do need to go into the midst of a brawl. Intuition does make it a bit easier, of course, but
I don't know. I feel like in a game where you're playing on Ghost Town, it might not be unreasonable to run heat first, just because you know, well,
right, yeah.
The vast majority, 4 out of 5 of their tanks are going to be heavy tanks. So maybe it's a little bit of a better option for me here. If I run into the bat chat or I'm sort of fighting at long range, maybe it's not ideal, but I don't know. It's a hard decision to make. It'd be interesting to see what these 2 guys have gone for. But I think I would probably load heat here.
Yeah, 3 minutes and 40 seconds in. I mean, the bat chat's making its way towards a 113, so it looks like both 113s. It's this time Gloucester's going to be collapsed on. And I think 99's in the right position over here to actually get into the city and fight. So even though Gloucester might go down, it does look like Leopards are taking the initiative right now, really pushing forward to try to isolate some of these tanks. It may just work out as well. Right now, Gloucester going to look to try to do as much damage. They've identified where the other bat chat is, and Gloucester's going, uh-oh, there's 2 over here. Now the go signal's onto flaming at the same time as well.
He's flaming. He's literally flaming. He's on fire, Kev. It's unfortunate, but, you know, maybe that's just going to be the way the cookie crumbled for the Leopards. It's a nice collapse from the Wolverines. The IS-7 does not end up lasting too long. I thought this was a nice play from Leopards. I felt like they kind of, they got some lemon. They tried to make some lemonade. Didn't really come out as lemonade, but you know, maybe they got orange juice, right? It was something at least. But unfortunately now it's a 5-on-3 and they're probably going to have to deal with what they've got here and walk away with a loss. But they tried to make something of it, and I kind of respect that.
Yeah, I do feel like it's like for the Leopards, and just me looking overall at this, overall the game strategy looks fine. But I think when it's coming down, and I always hate to say this, but when it's coming down to the individuals, when these shots are being missed, when they're bouncing, all these little percentage plays, that's all adding up to allow the Wolverines to come forward. Just even the micro positioning, what you're doing with your tanks. For example, the I-7 backing up there, not allowing the E100s to get into a fight, that's going to be a problem, because it means that you lose a tank for free, and all of a sudden it kind of capitulates from there. Now the fight's being segmented once again, where the E100 is getting isolated. The Bat Chat really has not been much use from 99. He's been rotation most of the game, not really being able to get into the fight, which is not the same story you can say from the Wolverines. And the advantages from there just keep piling up. I mean, there's no point even talking about that fight. It's two E100s getting beaten down by 5 tanks. And what is 99 going to do? He might be able to clean up 1 tank at most, 2 tanks at best. Lots of missed shots coming out from both parties. But it should still be a Wolverines victory to make it a 1-1.
So, 1 minute and a half left. They're going to get themselves onto the cap barricade. Might not be able to sneak a shot through here. I mean, I want to say it's still winnable for 99 Destroyer, but I just don't think so. Like, you don't really have enough room to maneuver here. The Bat Chat is going to take too long to rotate the direction that he's going. So he was almost forced into pushing through the E100 into the cap to try to get a reset. But now, I mean, he doesn't really have time, does he? So it's pretty much done.
Yeah, Wolverines going for the game-winning plays, so Coalition 14 mission might also be finished as well at the same time, or Coalition 13. And there you have it, Wolverines will tie it up 1-1 apiece.
They do indeed. Look pretty strong there. Did a good job, I think, of sharing the love around, the damage around. You end up with 4 tanks almost destroyed and 1 about full HP. You can't do much of a better job than that, to be honest, once you take it to the battle. Jordan, it did for a little bit look like maybe the Leopards were going to... That first brawl was... I'm not going to say it was 50-50, but it didn't seem like it was going to be incredibly one-sided, but things swiftly went the way of the Wolverines.
Yeah, I think what was important was that if they were going to take that brawl, which they essentially had to, they pretty much had to get rid of that Super Conqueror that they were trying to chase down. And the fact that my name didn't fit, got around the corner and survived, basically meant that they were not able to trade 1 tank for 1 tank. So they lose their 113 out on the extremity. Gloucester goes down. They don't pick up a tank in response on the trade. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to win from there. 4v5, it sort of snowballs further and further, particularly given the fact that Wolverines then counter push onto the IS-7, onto Flaming, take him out, and do so without loss as well. So inevitably in these kinds of situations, Wolverines, I feel like they just sort of out-rotated Leopards a little bit. Leopards they made the decision. They made that snap decision, and it sort of felt like they made it at a good time, but it might have come 5 seconds too late. And in that 5 seconds, Wolverines, they get 2 picks, and Leopards is sort of left doing what they can with 3 tanks, but there's really not a whole lot that you can do in a situation like that. So, yeah, well played by Wolverines, I thought.
Yeah, they came out on top, did so pretty well. Nice little bounce back as well there, Kev, to get them back into the swing of things. And 1-1 on the board after your opponent's map is not a bad start at all.
Yeah, it's pretty solid considering they could have made it a 2-0, but I always look on the positive side of things. I think this is the part where I'd go, the IS-7 needs to actually push forward here. He brought... This is where I go, if anyone from the B League that's going to come back and review these VODs and go, all right, what's gone wrong here? You've lost your 113, that's completely fine, but you got 4 tanks in the city that need to get into the fight. Notice right here, on the minimap, the Bat Chat's with the other tanks, but the IS-7 is backing up into a position where he is not being covered. Now, you can make the argument E100 is going to push the IS-7 out of position, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that Flaming is not committing into the fight. He's backing away and making it more difficult because he's panicking. It's a first visceral reaction that everyone makes when they're playing tanks, and it's when they're being overwhelmed by 3 tanks, they're thinking the first step is, I need to play from the enemy tanks. But in this case over here, especially in the 5-on-5 format, he needs to commit forward because it doesn't matter if he dies. He's going to die anyway. You go into a position where it forces all the enemy tanks to stay still, and then it gets your E100s into the fight. It gets your Bat Chat into the fight. All of a sudden, it becomes a 3-on-3 afterwards because, well, 4 tanks versus 3. You've got to favor a Bat Chat being able to clip out. You've got to favor your E100s getting into the fight. But it didn't happen, so... Yeah, a couple of micro errors coming in for both parties at this stage, but I'm not surprised to see them, and they're very easily rectified, in all honesty.
Yeah, I can understand it. Actually, funnily enough, Jordan and I were talking about this exact same thing last night, playing some games, and it's like, first instinct, if you know you're in a bad spot, is to not necessarily run away, but try and get out of it, move further away, extend it. How long? Let's make it longer for them to get here, make it longer for me to die. When reality, maybe the better situation is to move towards your teammates, not bait the enemy tanks around a corner that your team can't catch them to. So that situation makes perfect sense, comes with experience, I think, Kev, particularly in a 5v5 competitive format, which is obviously very different to what you play day in, day out, what you play in Clan Wars or anything like that. Nevertheless, 1-1 apiece. Himmelsdorf, Jordan, is coming up next. This one is picked by the Wolverines. And I don't want to preempt this because I think the Leopards have actually played pretty well, but I kind of get the feeling that there's an opportunity here for we've just gone over the top of the hill for the Wolverines, and they're ready to start in typical Himmelsdorf style, rolling on down and really run away with this match.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think if this was a 2-0 on Ghost Town and we saw Wolverines dominate it, I would probably be in line with what you're saying. But that one was sort of we saw some good plays from Leopards. We saw some good plays from Wolverines. I haven't really seen enough from these two teams to say I really think that Wolverines is going to dominate, particularly when you think about the way that Himmelsdorf plays as fairly similar to Ghost Town. You generally have like 4 tanks that will be comprising your main force, and you might have like a 50B or a Batchat or something running around the outskirts looking for a flank. That's kind of what you get on Ghost Town, and it's in some cases, depends on the tank compositions, obviously, but sometimes you get that on Himmelsdorf as well. So if we sort of extrapolate the results on Ghost Town into Himmelsdorf, I have to say I feel like Leopards have done enough to make me think that there is still a chance for them coming into Himmelsdorf here. And I'm not prepared to say that I think that the Wolverines is going to walk away with a clean victory 2-0 here. Obviously, it's possible given that it's their map choice, so there's maybe a little bit more of a likelihood that Wolverines is able to do it.
That's my inkling
there, but
yeah, it's my inkling. But certainly, I think it's fair to say that didn't look like a match between the team who had lost 3 battles all season and the team who lost 3-1 to the same.
Correct.
To be fair, though, the Leopards had only lost 1 match all season, and it was to the Wolverines. But it's hard to go past that perfect season for me, Kev. It's hard to go past a team that's barely lost any battles at all.
Yeah, for sure. You always have to back the undefeated champion at the end of the day. But it's also coming into this, I'm looking at stylistically, because this is the first good time I've actually been able to sit down and focus on the matches versus having other things like work. And I have to say, Leopards, I think, have the better call on at the moment, but Wolverines have the better team play at this stage. I think that's a common trend in Ghost Town that I've seen so far, and I have to see if it's been confirmed on Himmelsdorf.
All right, we roll on out to Himmelsdorf. It is our B-League Grand Final. A best of 7. It's 1-1 after coming out of Ghost Town. That was the Leopards pick. We head now for 2 battles here on Himmelsdorf. This one picked by the Wolverines.
Got a pretty interesting composition. This is a bit more like it, Kev. This is kind of what I was saying. You get some interesting picks out of the B-League. We've got a Foch for the Wolverines and a VZ55 as well coming out alongside, some more standard picks like the E100s and the Super Conk. For the Leopards,
we saw this, right?
From E3 on the defense?
E3 in the defense, it makes sense. But like the Foch B, we saw actually Wolverines using it on the attack before against another team. I think it was actually against the Leopards they used the Foch B as well, the VZ55. Same players. I think if I remember correct from the highlight clip. So
right. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we'll have to see how it does work out. It's definitely a fearsome tank if you can get it into the right position. I think that's easier said than done. You have the Foch B up on top of the hill, so Wolverines are really leaving that tank quite isolated, quite solo, but when you think about it, I mean, I guess outside of the 50B, is anyone really likely to be going up the hill? And if you're a 50B and you run up that hill and run into a Foch B, then you made a mistake. So overall, probably not the worst of decisions for the Wolverines. They kind of get their forces a little bit more strengthened down towards the bottom side of the map, I suppose. You got 2 players down toward the K line. You got a couple of players on the G line as well. A little bit of an exchange of fire as well. Not too much damage done, of course. Skellen is 113. Just keeping them at bay. But I am really interested to see where they put this Foch B. I think that for me is going to be the big question mark. And what I almost envision happening here, Kev, is that we probably do see these tanks just back off and work their way up the banana, set the Foch B up down the firing corridor, and start getting a cap on the 2 flag. But for now, it seems like Wolverines are more than happy to just continue taking this fight to Skell.
Yeah, I think this eventual bleed of damage, that's a lot of heat rounds as well, I have to say. That's not a proportion of heat rounds I would bring, even if I had the luxury of doing so. There still is a bit of value in having the AP rounds when it comes to some of these mid-round brawl situations. I also did want to point out, did you know that Himmelsdorf means Sky Castle?
Yes.
Did you know that?
Actually,
'Cause
believe
I
it or not,
didn't.
I speak German, so I did.
Well,
But
thanks to...
actually, I'm pretty sure Dorf means village.
Oh. Well, I mean, speaking of which is happening at the moment, God Mode might be dead soon as well. So God Mode dead might be very true to his name, but he's bouncing a lot of shots. 50B is coming around the corner, but the rotation's coming forward from the Wolverines at the same point in time. All the E100s needs to do is stay alive, and they might have a huge advantage over here. Vizzy and Super Conk is coming into the fight right now.
And I know Destroyer, he's managed to get a few shots out in that 50B. He's done a lot of damage, but now he needs to get out of dodge. The E100s, it's a slow lumbering chase, but they are eventually going to get some shots on to him. Snozzle comes around for the covering fire, and it looks like 99 Destroyer will get out of there relatively comfortably for now. Really need to see Skell and Gloucester getting involved into this one, though. Skell on that rotate in the 113 will get there pretty quickly. 99 Destroyer comes off the reload, and Leopards, they're just playing with the Wolverines right now.
Yeah, E100's not really being able to take full advantage of that, but the VZ55 coming in might be able to dump two. One into Skell. There it is. Skell's going to be cleaned up, and he's going to be on clip for 20 seconds. My name didn't fit. He's gone onto a different corridor. Absolutely completely. And God Mode's getting slapped around, but they might be able to focus fire down the 50B. One more shot coming in from God Mode, and there it is. The 50B goes down, a very vital playmaking tank. The E3 still traveling in the meantime. It's still making its way through the courtyard. It was spotted out early on by the Fosh B, so still a 3-on-3. But the VZ as well as the Super Concrete, you still have to favor them a little bit, especially if you get the VZ into a good position where it could drop its clips. The Fosh B, if the question is the Fosh B going to find the E3 the other way around?
I think the Fosh B is going to find the E100. Look, he's just ran up right behind him, and he's going to pump out all of those shots. 3 down so far, 3 more to go. And there isn't really anywhere for Gloucester to actually go. He just has to eat all of that damage. The Fosh B, pretty quick tank when it gets going, and he's managed to out-rotate them. Gloucester gets absolutely decimated and will be finished off here by the Super Conqueror. But the question is, can that Super Conqueror survive? My name didn't fit, did not manage to survive. But I think that's given enough time for Haha Yes in that Fosh B to get a reload off, and now he needs to start scooting his way down to get behind that E3 because the VZ55 is not going to be having a fun time here, though he probably can take out Snozzle, and in fact, pretty much has to take out Snozzle, otherwise this game is lost.
That's a brilliant play coming out from Warplay. He understands that he needs to utilize his HP. Haha, yes. Trying to go for the tracking shot. He's done a lot of damage. E3 is going to put one more into Warplayer, and now he's got the frontal part against the Fosh B. This is going to be really awkward. One shot does bounce, but Warplayer comes off reload. What a fight that is. At the end of the day, the Wolverines will come out on top just on the sheer virtue that E3 is a little bit slower into the fight. But that was a very, very long brawl.
It was a long brawl, and the reason it's called a T110 E3 because it takes 110 seconds to get from one side of the map to the other. I was wondering if he was going to get there by the time the game was over, but he eventually got in. A little bit too little too late, though. But an E3 cab, a Fosh B, we love to see it. It's a lot of fun. It did look a little bit at the end at like 2 trucks trying to get down a narrow street together, back up, okay, we're done. But it took a while. Nevertheless, the Wolverines come out with a win. It looked for a minute, Jordan, like the Leopards might get something out of this one. Look at that. That's what you were talking about, right? And I don't want to say this necessarily turned it around, but certainly the Fosh B able to get so many shots into the E100 made life a lot better, a lot easier there for the Wolverines at the end of the game.
But here's the thing for me, I don't want to say the Fosh B was bad because he actually got a lot of work done. But
literally any other tank?
No, not literally any other tank. But would a 50B not have just been better in that role? Like, obviously you don't have 6 shots, you've only got 4. But I feel like a 50B is a little bit more flexible than the Fosh B. And if you're going to utilize it like that as a tank that comes in on the flank, yeah, sure, maybe they weren't expecting to fight down on that southern part of the map. And if they were expecting that, they might have had the Fosh B in a different position. But if that Fosh B is going to be playing isolated, playing solo, being a tank to sort of rotate into the rest of the team, is a 50B inherently not going to be a better tank in that role?
Kev, you tell me. I can only assume that the intention of the Fosh B was to do something else, and they just ended up brawling at the bottom of the map.
Oh man, one thing that I can think of is, and I'd have to look back at the tank composition once again, is the Fosh B can technically serve as a hold down for an E100, whereas the 50B cannot. That's one potential thing, because I always look at whether something's low profile or whatnot that can kind of sit in position. Because there are some strategies you can use in Himmelsdorf that even if the 50B does die, you can still use it as a really good hold down and actually force a lot of cap pressure, which is one of the strategies that we did in Clan Wars once. But outside of that, I still think, yeah, the lack of a turret, I agree with Jordan. 50B can be helpful sometimes, but you can't beat the fact that sometimes you just want to have 2.4k, what is it, a clip potential versus the 1600 of 50B. Yeah. So sometimes 2400 is enough to change the battle. And we saw that with the E100. If it was a 50B, Gloucester would have been alive for much longer. But because it was a 50B, alongside with the VZ, that clip potential between those two tanks can, with a couple of good rolls, kill an E100. I think that's the difference between having a single 50B and a VZ and a Fosh-B and a VZ. So a couple of different theories, but obviously you have to talk with the players. They'd have a rationale why they decided to bring it out.
There were moments there, about 30 seconds before in those highlights, where it looked like maybe the Leopards were going to get the better of the Wolverines, right? But then the VC comes in, he dumps a couple, the Super Comp comes around the corner, and it kind of felt like the Leopards weren't really getting anything done at that point. And then Jordan, as you so aptly commentated, haha, yes, coming in with the Fosh B really just was able, just had a field day there, farming up the fantasy league points, dream come true.
Yeah, look, you can't complain about that one if you were the Fosh B. That certainly worked out quite nicely for him. I wonder if they bring it on the defense, though, then.
Well, that's it. And we'll flip things around. Back on to Himmelsdorf. The Wolverines now up 2-1 against the Leopards. If the Wolverines can pick this up, we'll head to Prokhorovka, which we know is a particularly one-sided map, and they'll do so on match point. So a very important attacking side here for the Leopards.
Indeed. Very important indeed. Let's see what they've got. There's a 50B I can see already, so I like that. We've got 2 E100s and a couple of 113s to round it out for them. No Fosh B, no E3 on the defense for the Wolverines, but they do have an Object 705A, which is one of those tanks that doesn't tend to pop up all that often. Everything else looking like pretty standard fare, though.
Yeah, 277, that God mode's in this position. Obviously, it's pretty solid. They need to make sure that's being well supported. All right, so I think Leopard's definitely angling for the 2 flag play. We normally see this, a couple of tanks on the hill just to take this corridor. The 705A is in... In advances, you run a 705A there, but I don't know how it makes me think in a 5-on-5 format, because...
Is he, like, going to side scrape on the cap or something?
Yeah, because there's 2 positions you do play, like a 705A or like a similar kind of tank. This can he even pen the 113 from this angle is my next question.
Maybe.
He's angled up, so I don't think you can. Because it's only... Oh, he's actually got a bit of a green mark.
There you go, yeah.
Jeez.
I was going to say, I think there probably is a little... Like, it feels like there's always a small chance. So at this point in the game, you know, why not? Why not go for those shots? If you get one through, then yeah, great. If you don't, it's a 30-second reload, whatever. Chances of getting pushed up on the hill there by a composition that is of, in its fastest case, a 113, you're pretty safe.
Now, I remember why you don't play the 705. Why you play in advances in that position and you don't play it in a 5-on-5. And this is my argument for it. The cap position on that 2 flag is different compared to advances. I'll always talk about advances a little bit because that's probably all the 15 versus 15 format, because that's what people are going to be more familiar with. But that's more nuance of actually that flag being closer to A5 versus A6 means I don't feel like the 705A is actually in the best position there. I feel like it's better utilized actually where the E100 is, and then it falling a little bit back, because you're exposing yourself to side shots there. You're exposing yourself to, even if you side scraping correctly, you can get shot in the rear if the enemy times the push correctly. If they do decide to go to the 2 flag, obviously in this case, Leopard's going towards the railway instead. They've shown presence, they've bled out a little bit of HP, and now they're going back towards the 1-2 line. This may work out because there's only 3 tanks over here, not 4, because of the fact that got the 705A closer.
Yeah, I'd be a bit scared if I was God Mode dead here. I mean, obviously he doesn't know it just yet, but there's going to be a bunch of tanks headed in his direction, and he is reasonably isolated. Yes, he'll have the backup of the Super Conqueror, but 2 100s and a 50B getting on top of you, that is going to be a dead 277. And the Super Conk will be able to do a little bit of damage on the way, but realistically speaking, that should be a very easy tank to isolate. This was a position that used to always be really difficult to deal with in 7v7 formats, but I think in 5v5, when you have less tanks to cover it off, you know, like instead of having now an extra tank maybe on that D3 corner or the B3 corner, you really only have the tank in C3 sitting in that pillbox, which is the Super Conqueror, though the E100 is starting to come across.
Yeah, this is much better. Like I feel like in my mind, this is an appropriate way to actually where you want to sit your tanks. 705A can watch from the keyhole. He's very, very hold down. It's a nice tank. He's got the speed to rotate in comparison to an E100. I think he's a little bit quicker. And now you got enough tanks supporting because I think they realize, okay, the first goal, the Leopards are going to try to dig out where this 277 is, and that's all been spotted out. This is fantastic. Wolverines set up for success right now, Jordan.
They are indeed. The E100s have been spotted. That's a lot of information for the Wolverines. God Mode Dead already taken a bit of damage. He's gone for the cross, which is an interesting choice. He's gotten out of that pillbox, but he's essentially put himself into a crossfire. 9-9 Destroyer can now start to work his way forward as well, and God Mode Dead, oh dear, he's just been deleted. And I always feel as though if he does actually stay in the pillbox, at least the Super Conqueror and the E100 can help him out a bit more.
No, because you know what the problem is? He stays in that pillbox. The E100s get between the houses. There was no tank sitting there in the mid corridor. And that's the problem that you have there. And he does make the correct decision and try to leave to force them, but he doesn't realize that a couple of tanks are sitting back there. So really nicely done by the Leopards to dig out that position. They're barely bleed out. They got the tank advantage now. They still got time to work with. And you have to hope for the Wolverines that you get a bit lucky or your focus fires on point. Normally we say the game's done and dusted, but Leopards have been a bit shaky so far in some of these brawl scenarios, and I want to see if they can capitalize on this and actually take the victory to force it to a 2-2.
Well, I think they should be able to. They've got the 113 in a really good spot. Gloucester is looking pretty solid. I'm not too sure what Skell's doing, still down on the southern side of the map, but it looks like he's moving. He's making his way up here sooner rather than later, which is good. Leopards have been a little bit slow sometimes in a couple of the rotations that we've seen from them, but in this instance, it doesn't look like it's going to be too little too late. But yeah, I think Gloucester's position is just going to be the one that really pulls Wolverines unstuck a little bit. He's got the information that he needs to as to where, of course, the Wolverines players are, when they're going to be rotating, and he can also just be a real pain. If they try to rotate off, he's going to get 1 or 2 shots in, and that's just really annoying to deal with. But Leopards, instead of actually going onto the cap with their E100s here, I was going to say looked like they were going to push, but I think they might have made the call to just sit on the cap, which is probably the better option. You know, no need to take a fight if you don't have to. Just put that cap pressure on.
Yeah, and you've got all the control in the world. It's like, as soon as Gloucester calls, like you're so much map control. Gloucester's just having free farm in his life at this stage. He's going, this is pretty good. I'm shooting tanks that are running away from me. Like, how good is that? This is a farming simulator. So they're going to go eventually have to reset. And because Gloucester's just reset or done so much damage already, and they have the tank advantage, it's all over. Leopards victory for sure over here. They decide to go for the smart reroute. They got control of all the corridors that they need to at the end of the day. It's GG from there. The Warplay, he tries his best, but what are you going to do? You're getting bled out from both sides. Not your fault. Leopards have just outcalled, out-rotated, outplayed, and we'll make this into a 2-2.
Yeah, certainly seems that way. 1 minute 7 left on the clock, 57 seconds left on the cap. Who's going to even get a reset at this point? I don't... You know, Kev, I mean, look, I'm not going to say this is over just yet, because there's 50 seconds left. What if a reset does occur? Haha, yes, we'll survive. So if they can find a way to get a reset, they might actually win this. I think they might. I think they might get a reset here.
Okay, so the E100s need to be focusing over here, but the 705A is not pushing in! He's not pushing in, and there's an ammo rack!
Well, never mind. I don't think we're getting a reset anymore.
The 705A needed to have been pushing at the same time, and the problem was he was waiting for the 113. 113 went to go suppress Gloucester, but Gloucester's not being suppressed this time around. E100 is just going to be the chunkosauruses they are, and just go, you can't pass. Do not pass go.
Oh, no way, Kev. Don't tell me this is
gonna happen. Hold on a second. 1 second. Nah, it's not going to happen. No way. Can't happen.
If they would have gone, Kev, if they would have gone together, I actually think they get a reset and haha, yes, can survive.
But they had to go together, and they did it, Jordan.
I was literally sitting here, everyone's saying, oh, this one's in the bag, and I'm kind of like, Why? But there's only one tank on the cap. Why don't they just all go together with 30 seconds on the clock? They're not going to kill them all before they run out of time. How does this play out? Anyway, the Leopards get the win. But I was concerned for them there. The play was smart though, and it did work out for them. So look, I can't take anything away from that. And to be fair, the Leopards certainly seemed to be able to deal with the Wolverines. Flaming got Amarak got absolutely deleted when the rest of the tanks decided to roll through. They were body blocking. They were in their road. They were doing what they can. So look, overall, congrats to the Leopards. They'll even it up 2 apiece. And not a bad result at all there, Jordan, considering Himmelsdorf was the Wolverines pick. And seems to me like this Leopards team, not too bad. Maybe even a little bit more comfortable in attack. I think it's been all attacking side wins so far. It must be.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Leopards, they played pretty well. They played pretty well on the attack here. They were able to dig out that individual 277, but you certainly could still see that element of shakiness. The fact that was kind of losable from the position that they had it in was a bit like, I don't know if maybe they should have put a second tank on. I saw Skell in that 113 sort of driving up towards the 2 flag. I thought he might go onto the cap alongside I think it was the 50B that was on the cap as well. Yep. So that to me might have made things look a little bit cleaner. Obviously they walk away with the win, but gee, I don't know. 1 or 2 things go wrong there for Leopards, and
I thought they left it kind of close. They left down to the wire for sure for the Leopards. It worked, right? And that was a risky play, and you could see how it makes sense. Put one tank on the cap. There's we've got enough time to get the 1 tank cap, and to be fair, Kev, we don't normally see that many caps coming through with just 1 tank. Normally you'll pile a couple in, but talk us through. We start this one off with the Amex 50B up on the hill. Does manage to get a little bit of damage, but I don't think it plays that much of a role in the end.
I mean, yeah, it just pushes Yes off that position. But I think this was really well done by the Leopards. They understand where the weakness is. They deconstruct where this 277 can be, well, pretty much where you can be playing from, where you can't really leave from, and as a result, completely bleed them out. Get rid of a tank 5 and 4. This part gets a bit dicey. I agree with Jordan in some parts. Yeah, obviously it becomes a bit scarier, but you're looking at how Wolverines retake it. There's an E100 that just goes down by itself. The Super Conqueror's committing. The tanks aren't there, so even if they are, I'm going 36 seconds. As long as you do enough damage to the Super Conk, the 50B can clip out. The 113s go after the 113s. The E100s push through. 20 seconds over here. There's enough time, I feel like, just to get the damage with the 50B, but...
Maybe just,
You see here, right? And this is 3 tanks, and one of those tanks was the tank that was there to deal with flaming, right? So, and those 2 tanks are the tanks shooting at flaming earlier. If you drive 4 tanks at the 1 tank sitting on the cap with 25 seconds left on the cap, 20 seconds left on the cap, I don't know. It feels like not a bad dice roll to take, because you probably get the reset, and they probably don't have enough time to get rid of everyone on your team, particularly when the Leopards left it to the very last second to get that 1 tank on the cap to begin with.
I mean, I think you run that simulation 10 times or 100 times, and you probably get, maybe 2 or 3 wins there for the Wolverines. 30% chance I give them. Like, you get a reset through, and the tanks, or at least 1 tank survives. So a bit too close for comfort for Leopards, but hey, I mean, a win's a win, right? You got to sort of take it from there, and they're at 2 apiece right now, which was a result that we, again, like, obviously not being experts on the B League, maybe aren't exactly the most informed opinions on this, but at least for me, I looked at the scorelines during regular season. I looked at the way that these teams seem to play, and I mean, it seemed like it would be Wolverines to walk away with a pretty comfortable win here in this grand final, and Leopards are making it close. So credit where it's due. They push it through at another map.
Yep. And we sit here and pick this apart, right? And as we know, we have the view that they don't have. We have a lot of information. We have the benefit of being able to sit on our comfy Noble chairs, ! Noble chairs in chat if you want to find out more, and throw down pieces of information and feedback and incorrect judgments all night long. That's our Friday night. It's a great spot to be in. But I do enjoy it when you see a team take a bit of a risk, and that's what the Leopards did, I think, and they certainly made it play off, and they seem to make all the right plays, right? Is those things how they and I'm not saying that I'm sure it is intentional, but you can't guarantee that you're going to Amarak Flames there, right? You can't guarantee that all that's going to play out how you think it's going to play out. But it's great. It's great when it, to see a team take that risk and then it does play out the way that you'd hope. So 2 apiece, which means that we have 2 options now. Okay, we head to Prokhorovka, 3rd map. The team either picks this one up, 2-0, and we have our winner, or what I think is more likely is that we go 1-1 once again, and we head to Cliff as our tiebreaker. It's our B-League Grand Final. The Wolverines up against the Leopards. The Wolverines been smashing it all season, but the Leopards, gents, they've turned up here for the Grand Final. It's been an absolute smasher of a match, and attacking side wins. I love to see it.
Yeah, indeed. And this is actually the map that's been a little bit shakier for the Wolverines during the regular season. You look at Ghost Town, Himmelsdorf, they hadn't lost on either of those. But they have definitely lost here on Prokhorovka before. So that might give you a bit of hope for the Leopards. Interesting team comp coming through for the Leopards, by the way, Kev. Leopard 1, E5. That T100 LT getting spotted out is not great news for them, though.
I was going to say, surely he's going to be spotted out by Warplayer, and there it is. I mean, even gets a shot through the double bush. I feel like I've seen this before in ANZPL, right? T100 LT gets spotted, gets shot at. Panthers in the lead, but hang on, it's not the Panthers, it's the Wolverines over here. I was really keen on seeing Prokhorovka, honestly, because it's very much a map where it's a lot more emphasis on map control and how do you take it overall. Flaming's dead. He can't get out of here now because of the IS-7 suppressing him. He needs to take a bit of a risk once he gets unlit, just drive across, get to safety, and hope that a shot doesn't land. But this is not a good start for the attack.
No, definitely not. But, I mean, at least Flaming survives. If you lose Flaming straight off the bat, then you're kind of cooked. But right now, not the end of the world. He can still get work done as the scout. He's obviously not going to be as big of a force in terms of the fighting, the brawling potential, but he can get vision, and that's kind of what he needs to do anyway to win this game for the Leopards.
Okay, so what I think you need to do over here right now for the Leopards is I think you need to get your Super Conqueror into the JS position. That Super Conqueror doesn't cross the rails. I'll call that the JS position from now on because the rest of your team commits across. You keep one there on that side to keep them preoccupied, but it doesn't look like he crosses. Everything gets spotted. So you know now, as the Wolverines, that you need to also do the same thing. You need to start bringing your tanks back. You need to start getting some pressure onto this 2 flag. But it's going to be difficult. There's a Leopard here. There's 2 Super Conks. There's an E5. Yeah, this is actually not too bad. Leopard's definitely making, what is what you said earlier? Making lemons out of lemonade or whatever the saying is these days. Newfangled
Actually,
kids.
I said making orange juice out of lemons because it didn't go too well for them. They were trying to make lemonade. It didn't go well. But maybe in this case, they are making lemonade out of lemons. Wolverines, I thought they were just kind of try and send it over onto this E5, but starting to have my reservations about that idea. Super Conqueror and STB1. I mean, that's a big crossfire setup to walk into, so I can't imagine they're going to be too keen for that one. It's not been a good start for Leopards, but they're sort of starting to bring it back, and they're really putting a bit of that pressure back onto Wolverines.
Yeah, good reset coming out.
That was from the, was it from the IS-7?
I think it would have been from the STB, because I don't think the IS-7 would have been able to get enough gun depression off. That's my 2 cents there. Might be actual overdump that's coming over to mid. Potentially the Leopard 1's grouping up. They're going to dump into the IS-7 and create some pressure, but you need to keep a tank over here to help Gloucester out. Gloucester's doing some fantastic work right now. Really just staying alive. This bleed damage coming forward from the Leopards. Would you look at that? It's a good return fire.
I thought Wolverines had pretty much won it when they got that reset and took that pressure off themselves, but they've just traded so poorly and continue to take damage for free here. Gloucester seems to be allowed to do whatever he wants. Superconk and STP1 firing shots into his turret, bouncing there. And push over into mid as well from Leopard, so decisive. You still got a T100 LT for Wolverines down at the bottom of the map, and he might be able to do some damage from distance. But right now, this is not looking too good for the Wolverines at all. They may take down Gloucester if Barricade can survive to get another shot through, but I don't think it's going to be enough here, Kev. They've run into each other.
Yeah, no, this has been great stuff from the Leopards. As we said, like making lemonade out of lemons. More than that, they've made some 5-star wine out of these grapes that they had. There were sour grapes at the beginning. They still matured to end up pretty well. What is this? It's going to be a 5-0. That is not how this map should work on Prokhorovka. That was just sublime play. I mean, I'm already seeing Skell posting there, and in his mind, he's going to be like, yeah, that was fantastic from the Leopards, even though they played out so much HP early on. It was a great call to go over the railway yard into mid and then bleed into the opposition to really create an upset victory. Now they're up 3-2, in with a chance to make Jordan look like an idiot.
Yeah, Leopards here on match point. I think that's enough fruit jokes for the rest of the season and next season too, potentially. Thanks, gents. But attacking side continues to win, Jordan. And the Leopards doing it in style. Were they not?
Yeah, very much in style. Very much in style. I mean, the fact that they lost so much HP on their T100 LT to start off the map, you normally look at that, and if you see that happen in ANZPL, you're like, they probably lose this game now. Like, the T100 LT on this map is just so important for getting that vision, and if they're basically a one-shot, they can't play as aggressively, can't play as comfortably as they otherwise would, and there's a chance, obviously, that they just get pinged off and die to one tank or something like that. But Leopards, they sort of answer it quite nicely.
That is some good damage there, right? We look at what the Wolverines have done, and you go, you know what? No one really had it either chose to or had a chance to step up.
Well, I think what you need to look at here as well is probably how many shots are being fired by these tanks and how many are actually connecting, and further, how many are actually penetrating. See how many come through here for the T100 LT, maybe not so much. But that STB1, I'm thinking there's probably quite a few shots here that didn't quite hit the mark. 9 shots fired, only 3 penetrations, and that's the kind of thing that's going to make the difference. And it's not just him, obviously. It's all of the tanks. I saw there was like one that had 8 shots fired and like maybe 5 pens or 4 pens or something like that. Whereas on the side of the Leopards, I mean, they're just like pretty much connecting 85% plus and penetrating as much. So it's a much prettier picture when you look at that side of the scoreboard.
Certainly is. For the Leopards, this looks pretty good. And Kev, you enjoyed it. It got closer and closer, and it just kept rolling until all of a sudden there was still 5 tanks alive here for the Leopards. We don't often see that, particularly from the attacking side here on Prokhorovka. But the Leopards certainly in with a pretty good shot now. 1 battle away from going home ANZBL champions.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out Skell maybe isn't too washed up. The calling is, as far as I understand, Skell's calling, correct? So if he's calling, I mean, you're kind of starting to see the reason why, even from these disadvantageous situations, they're really making the most of it. Yeah, it's at the beginning, T1 and LT, they lose so much initiative in terms of taking map control, but after, even though Flaming gets absolutely destroyed to like a one-shot, they understand where the enemy tanks are. They group up. They understand where they need to bleed out. As Jordan said, a lot of shots missing from the Wolverines. The Leopards, however, understanding the priority rotation. They're bleeding out the Superconch. They're bleeding out the STB. And the call's just made too late to dump over. When they do dump over, they've already lost so much HP at that stage. And, I mean, Gloucester also doing some fantastic work in that E5 as well, being an absolute nuisance each time. He was not suppressed the entire time. And that was it.
GG. I just want to say that ANZBL, where it's attacking side winning every time, is some of the most entertaining tanks I've seen so far. This format where attacking side wins, Jordan, I love it. We should have it every week. Attacking side should always win.
Attacking side should always win. Maybe they need to buff the attacking side in ANZPL. I don't know. Maybe we'll see something a bit different in the third place match for ANZPL later on this evening. I mean, look, I just felt like Leopards had a bit of a better idea of what their identity was on that map. They had the E5, the 2 Super Conquerors, they played the railway line, and they knew what they needed to do.
And they had a Leopard. The Leopards had a Leopard. How can they lose when they do that? That's the real question. Anyway, let's head back in. This could be the last battle of the ANZBL season. The Leopards are up 3-2 right now. They're a defensive win on Prokhorovka away from taking home championship. And to be honest, gents, if they did, I think it would be a pretty wild upset, and I'd be down to 0 channel points once again.
Me too. Wouldn't be the first time though this season. Probably like the 5th or 6th. But that's the life you've got to live if you're going to go hard or go home. I have been going home a lot though. But that's fine because I cast from my bedroom. So I was
going to say, good thing you barely leave home. Let's be real.
Yeah. Same composition for the Leopards on the defense as what they had on the attack. Exact same. Down to the E5 as well, which is, not a tank that crops up all that often, but Definitely got its use.
Could be it could be a pocket favorite. E5, I mean, we always talk about how the cupola is a bit of a weak spot. It's pretty big. I don't know, lots of things that are the size of a E5 cupola, but it's still hard to pen it at the end of the day. We're starting to see why. It's
when he's
got
wiggling
some good
around
DPM.
too.
Yeah, when he's wiggling around, you need to land heat rounds if you're a tank that's got heat rounds in there. Even just normal like 260, 270 AP rounds struggle to go through the cupola. So this time around, yeah, I would say going back to that point on how a lot of teams are winning the attack and not the defense, I do feel like that's also down to the fact a lot of teams are unable to really take map control or understand the rotation priorities or the protocols there. I think that's to be expected, honestly, in ANZ BL, because a lot of the time in ANZ PL, the reason why we hype up an attacking victory so much is because a lot of the maps are defensively orientated. We do talk about how Sand River is defensively orientated. Even Proc, I feel like, is defensively orientated.
Proc is definitely, yeah.
So it does come down to, I feel like it's just teams still trying to figure out exactly where they're sitting positioning-wise, what they need to do to react to an attack, what a default does, what a default doesn't. All these different factors, which it does come down a little bit to experience sometimes. So there is a group up the push into the 1-2 line. And Flaming needs to get out of there.
Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. He does have the E5 right next to him, the Leopard one at the back of the map. So this might not actually be the worst thing in the world for Leopards. He can just dump back over into the 3 line quite quickly as well as soon as these tanks do get spotted out.
But the problem is the Leopard will die. That's the problem. So he needs to leave now. And that's some great bleed shots coming forward. Batchat should be able to get one more into him. And there you have it. The problem, though, is, like I said...
Well, the problem is no damage has been done by Leopards
exactly.
so far.
And the bigger problem here is that they need to run. Because they're going to lose so many tanks over here. There's not enough set up to punish this. So 99 was unable to really land a shot in the Leopard one. Gloucester needs to dump into this bowl, which is a correct decision, I feel like. He needs to go in. Like, he can't stay there. He needs to go.
He's going.
And take this one-on-one. Yeah, he needs to take this. The Batchat needs to come in and help him out. You need to reset the position of the Leopard, and you just have to hope Gloucester does enough to win the one-on-one. You need to reset the map pretty much. And the Wolverines, this is so weird. They have allowed this one-on-one to happen, and they're not doing anything about it.
Well, Snozzle starting to work his way across as well here for the Leopards. Will be the first to join the fray. My name didn't fit in the 113. Also arriving, but First Blood will go the way of the Leopards. Very quickly counteracted by Wolverines. HP advantage is still there for the defensive side, but you've got a lot of tanks. They're going to take a long time to get into this fight, and Snozzle is very, very isolated indeed. Skell and 99 Destroyer are not there to help him out at all. The T100 LT of Flaming, I mean, he can get there and he can try and do a bit of damage, but he might have even overcommitted. Takes 440. War player in the Batchat's going to get out for, well, it looks like for free, and I'd have to say I think Wolverines might have done enough to push this through to the tiebreaker.
Yeah, it should go over to Cliff at the end of the day. Nice stuff from God Mode, cleaning up that T1 and LT. You've got Haha Yes also just playing that extremity. And an Ignite coming in towards the Leopard as well makes it just add salt to the injury at the end of the day. They might be able to get rid of the 113, but it's not going to be enough. It's all going to be Skell and his Lonesome. Batchat comes off the clip. And that should be it. So Skell might be able to take down one more, but I don't even think he can even take down one more. They're just playing this one. They're just dancing with him. And there you have it. On to Cliff, tiebreaker. ANZ BL is going to go all the way. It's all attacking side victories. It's going to go towards Cliff. And it's going to be a question of, well, who had the faster attacking side?
Yeah,
Mateo's
I
going to
don't
have
know.
fun with that.
Yeah, it's because I think that a lot of these games were actually quite fast. Apart from that Himmelsdorf slow victory, I think both the Himmelsdorf one took a little while, but the rest of them were actually pretty quick. So that was fun to watch. Yeah, as you said, another attacking side victory. The Wolverines bring it back and take us to one final battle. They've now lost as many battles tonight as they lost for the entirety of the regular season. And you can see the Wolverines coming out on top in fine fashion. Jordan, I don't know. I could be way off the mark here, but it kind of feels like in the B League, maybe is it just a little bit easier to attack, particularly if you can bring 4 or 5 tanks to bear on opponents who are outmatched, and by the time they get their remaining tanks through, it's a little bit too little too late. They're overmatched for the rest of the battle. Is it just a scenario of not knowing where they are or not being able to cover tanks? Or what's your feeling on that?
I mean, I think you're onto something to an extent, because I look at the setups from the defenders and I don't think any of them are like bad necessarily. But where I am noticing a bit of a difference between ANZ PL and ANZ BL is the speed at which teams are reacting on the defense. You know, it's like a snap 5-second decision for ANZ PL, and then your tanks are going to be there. You've got all 5 tanks in the fight if you're on the defense. Whereas here, it seems to take a little bit longer for the individuals, or maybe even the caller, to recognize that they need to be pulling their tanks from the back of the map to join those guys in the brawl or at the front or whatever it may be. I just feel like the rotation is a little bit slower on the defense than what we normally get from ANZPL.
This 1v1 here, right? You see these 2 tanks here forever. Finally, Snozzle comes through and does manage to get a pick, but literally the 2/3 of the Wolverines team is here to take him out, and it's a long time before the rest of the Leopards can even get to him, right? He's all out on his lonesome. It's so far away, 3 remaining tanks. And what could have been a 4v4, what was a 4v4 match at this point, ends up being a match that the Leopards can't find their way back from.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also down to the setup. I think we've been touching on it a lot of different times, but the way that the teams are set up, it's just not in a position for success. We see a lot of the times, if you do want to hold on to the 1-2 line as a defending side, you can't just have a T100 LT as well as a Leopard 1 and go, yep, that's enough. You literally see 3 tanks sitting in the back pocket. You've got the T100 LT, you've got 2 or 3 tanks at the back, and then maybe you have a Super Conk sitting there at A6 just to cover up the fact that you can see anything pushing over the rail yards. And I'm starting to see that as a common trend throughout everything, is the defaults that are being set up. And we talk about defaults a lot because that's how you have to play a bit of a catch-all kind of position when you're playing the defensive side. The defaults that are being set up is great if you're expecting 1 or 2 tanks to push, but when teams commit 4 or 5 in, it's not designed to punish that. It's not designed.
That's what we saw the Panthers do last week, right? And something that even the Sentinels struggle with. And I think the way where it is clearly evident, and obviously I know the least about tank strats for all of you, and obviously less than the guys playing. So again, this is just like top down, watching, easy to pick things out. The reality is that when you keep seeing battles go to the end and the attacking team has 4 or 5 tanks left consistently, match after match, irrespective of which side is attacking and which side is defending, that kind of, it's like the old it's like, what's the game where you put 2, like auto battler, you put two, like how many chickens and how many horses fight and blah, 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 blah. And there's a certain point, right, where it just, like, it might be close for a little bit and then it gets incredibly one-sided. Yeah, and it just steamrolls. And that's what I feel like we're seeing here. So we have the info come through. The Leopards have the tiebreak advantage, 410 attack win in Ghost Town. So that was the first battle of the night when the Leopards came out on attack. Got that attacking side win. So Leopards get to pick side for Cliff. They'll pick defense. Kev, I'll throw it back to you. Like, I kind of feel that both sides are like, whatever here on Cliff. I know we like to talk about defender's advantage. Cliff's a very brawly map, in my opinion. And also, we've seen the attacking side win time and time again tonight. So this is the most wild thing for me, is that Leopards have picked defense for Cliff when they haven't won a defensive side tonight. Is this like the brain tricking itself? I don't know.
No, I think you just prefer to go on the side. And I think I want to touch on your point where you're talking about how, overwhelming numbers eventually hits a critical mass, and that's it. You'll have, 1,000 or 10,000 chickens. They'll be able to take down a tank, maybe even 1 million chickens. But I think you're onto something there, because we'll go back to that scenario because a lot of people go, why don't teams set up the same way that they do, like the Sentinels, or looking at the map between the Sentinels and the Perth Panthers? The difference between what the Panthers did and the difference between what happened in this game is that the Panthers on their attack or the defense tried relying on a timing attack, where you try to literally, you gimmick your way to a victory. There's no better way of putting about it, because if you commit 5 tanks into a river and it doesn't work, you're not getting out of that river. I hate to break it to you. You're kind of just sitting there dead in the water. You're not really doing anything. The difference between that and this is that this attack was a lot more, we're developing, we're trying to explore, we're trying to group up, we're trying to make sure the defensive side doesn't punish anything. That's one good thing from the Wolverines. What the Leopards didn't do was sit enough tanks. And that's the issue that I have. And I feel like a lot of these players and a lot of these teams, if they're looking back and they're watching this and going, all right, how do I take my craft to the next level? Rotations. You need to understand when to rotate your tank, how to rotate your tank, because if you're setting up for a particular strategy, you need to have more tanks committed to that. And then understand where you need to rotate. You can't have everything called to you. As we say, we can't spoon feed you everything. Eventually, you're going to have to learn and have a couple of those brain cells
yourself
up there.
sometimes.
Exactly. You're going to have to make the call.
It's one of the most important aspects of, I think, any esports title is rotation. Obviously, depending on what game you're playing. But in many, many games, rotation is absolutely huge, Kev, as you would very well know, right? So that makes perfect sense. I can't help but agree. Jordan, you... Same sort of feeling here. Rotation pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying during the game, yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, especially in a game like Water Tanks where like it takes so long to get anywhere in comparison to a lot of other titles. Like in other games, you know, generally speaking, you can cross the map in maybe 15 or 20 seconds. But here in Water Tanks, you know, it can take you a minute to get from one side of the map to the other, depending on what tank you're in. So if you don't make that decision as quickly as you possibly can, chances are you're going to be way too late to that fight, and you're going to get there by the time everyone else is dead. And we sort of saw a little bit of that, I thought, on Himmelsdorf. Like the Foch B and the E3 like took, I mean, almost half of the game to get to the
may as well not be there
itself.
So
you know, yeah, exactly. But
it's like coming to a surprise party, and the guest of honor has already been cut the cake and gone home. All right, this is it. This is the final battle of our ANZ B League. The Wolverines up against the Leopards. We're here on Cliff. It's been attacking side wins all night long, but the Leopards, they got to pick side. They picked defense. To be fair, we'd probably always pick defense, but it blows my mind. Let's see if this works out for them or not. Everything is on the line. Can they end the Wolverines' undefeated season?
Yeah, I really have no idea what to expect out of this map because neither of these teams even played it in the regular season, Kev. So, look, if I had to make a gamble, I would probably start on the defense as well, but I don't know how comfortable you're going to feel after all the attacking side wins tonight.
Yeah, so I'm going to look at this and go, okay, you need to... Skell's peeked up and gone, gee, there's no tanks over here. Wow, I wonder what we should do. Let's dump the STB, guys. Godmo's dead. There's nothing he can do. He's just dead. What is... Yeah, I mean, it's a 5-on-4. The players in the donut need to get into the fight over here, and this is going to get really messy from this point onwards. Godmo's doing his best to try to survive. Barricade's in a great position, but where are the tanks from the rest of the Wolverines?
Well, they're slowly but surely coming up from the donut, but they do just take a little bit too much time, and Leopards, ye old faithful, dump over mid here on Cliff, makes it happen pretty comfortably. I saw a lot of shots just bouncing into the ground there as well, in like the 4-5-6 line somewhere. So a lot of shots not being connected on both sides, but Leopards will be happy with what they've managed to find. The initial tank out of the picture, 4 versus 5. You pretty much should be winning every day of the week from here.
That said, Snozzle is in a bit of a snozzle himself. If he's going to stay isolated like this, we're going to have to see a couple more tanks get into the reinforcement battle, and that's exactly what you're seeing right now. You've got the numbers, so you group up, you decide to... You need to hit the VZ55 with a nice timing attack over here. 277 shouldn't be really playing that position. You should be coming out from your own side instead. Down low to take down this VZ, but only Skell's doing that. Snozzle's bled out a lot of HP. This is... What am I seeing from the Leopards? They had such a huge advantage, and they've just completely squandered it by allowing themselves to get bled out and not committing into a push together. I mean, Gloucester's now got the right idea that you need to focus down Warplayer before he can get anywhere. So Skell's going to get the killing blow over there. You leave the CS alone. You commit onto the TVP. Then you get rid of the 113, even the defensive side, so you can allow them to do whatever. But I don't know what I'm seeing at the end of the day. Like, Jordan, help me.
Oh, it's a bit of a mess, really, isn't it? That TVP on the reload is not having a very fun time at all. Gets blown up, and now it's a 2-on-4. I don't know if it's a winnable 2-on-4, but I suppose the Wolverines are going to have to give it a crack. Barricade and Haha, yes. I mean, it still potentially can go their way if 99 Destroyer makes a mistake, throws his tank away. Flaming's quite low as well, but unfortunately, Barricade doesn't really have a safe position to sit in. He just gets slid down the rock face and inevitably deleted.
Skella's on the ace at the moment. I don't know if I've had an... Have we had an ace in ANZPL? A tank killing all 5 enemy tankers.
I don't even need to do that. They actually don't even need to kill all 5. They just sit here and wait.
Yeah. No. As in what I mean by that is Skell is on the he's killed 4 tanks so far.
Yeah.
Is he gonna have
So
5?
what you're saying? He wants 5. Yeah, I think he
wants
probably
5,
does, based on the way that he's driving. But if they really want to play this one safe, they don't have to, send that SCB forward. Still, looks like Skell's ready and waiting.
At this stage,
need someone else to send it.
You got to go for the ace, right? You have to go for 5 kills at this point in time.
He needs someone else to just drive forward and be the punching bag for him, or maybe not. Maybe not. He's even found the angle here, so
yeah.
He's shooting through the bush. Haha, yes, has no idea.
Come on, Gloucester, don't ruin it. Don't ruin it, Gloucester.
They're not. They're no way, no way. Skell gets 5. There you are. And Leopards will take away the victory in the ANZ Grand Final.
Congratulations, Skell wins our hearts with his comments every broadcast, and he wins it here tonight as well for the Leopards. Congrats. They pick it up. They give the Wolverines their first loss of the season. They come through. They get the first defensive side win of the night for either of the teams. But Kev, look, kind of feels like, as you know, we see it quite a lot. They just dump over the hill, and they almost play it like the attacking team, and they come out on top.
They recognize exactly what's going on over there. They see an overmatch and they commit to it. And the problem is on the side of the Wolverines, I think it's you have your TVP. It was in the spot to punish a hill push, but there's no CSs. So I don't think the TVP was in the correct location. I don't think a lot of these tanks were in the right position to initially punish for it. You had to take donut control with the 3 tanks nice and early on. You had to try, or like at least spot for this mid push. As soon as the CS spots everything up there, you need to commit all the tanks up through donut. You need to try to make sure that position was reinforced. And that's what I mean by being a bit slow to rotations, and why I would say in ANZB, or why a lot of these 5-man pushes work. And I get it. Skell's got 5 kills. He penned all his shots. I think Jordan needs to post an official apology saying that Skell is a bit washed, because I don't think a wash gamer can pen 14 shots. I don't know about you, Jordan.
Listen, I need to see Skell in ANZPL next season, and then we'll talk. All
right. The gloves have been thrown down. But look, back to my point. The reason why the five tanks yolling over, eating Ahoy, no thought given, caution thrown to the wind, is because, like I said, teams just don't have the rotations sorted out at this point. And that's the difference I feel like we're starting to see.
Well, to be fair, the difference between ANZPL Season 1, Season 2, Season 3 has been quite considerable, right? So I think for the B-League, it's going to be kind of a similar thing. It's going to take a while. They'll have opportunity to adapt, evolve. 5v5, very, very different. The Leopards, we saw them roll over the top here, Jordan. They looked pretty good at the start, but I kind of felt like the middle of this battle went a little bit awry for them. But I guess they're in such a position that it was a little bit hard for them to throw it away at that point.
Well, I mean, again, Leopards were probably able to get that done with about 5 seconds to spare. You know, Wolverines just come up into the donut a little bit too late. If they get there a little bit faster, if they have the 3 tanks sitting in like F3, and Leopards are sort of still hanging about in mid, haven't really rotated off, haven't really got to a safe position, then maybe they can trade that tank out effectively. Or maybe even they find a way to keep God Mode alive, or at least longer than what he was able to survive for. But the fact that they're just like 5 seconds too late doesn't really give them that firing corridor or that opportunity to sort of trade any of the damage. And when you're playing 4v5, I mean, at that point, the game's pretty much over. So even though they have the tank up on top of the hill, they're not really able to utilize that to great effect because he kind of just got farmed. And inevitably, Leopards are able to just slowly but surely work their way through those remaining tanks, isolating them one by one. And, well, there you go. Leopards walk away with the win.
They certainly do. And between the B-League and the Premier League, we haven't seen a game in finals go towards the highest seed yet, from what I can tell. I think this is the only game, right, of the B League. It was round robin into finals. So it's been quite a wild ride, and just goes to show, Kev, mind games, pressure, finals preparation. I don't know what it is, but when it comes to finals, previous results are not accurate indicators of future performance, clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like our predictions. I mean, I don't know how I got that one right, but Yeah, I definitely agree. It comes down to, I think it's a situation where a lot of players, you think, oh, okay, it's online, it's the same, but it's not, because then you go,
No.
well, okay, normally on a regular ANZ BL broadcast, there's 200, 300 viewers, so it's normally my mates, cheering me on, having a bit of a go at me. We get critiqued by JT, who's having a zinger box all the time. I heard apparently Tofu was going to feed him or something like that. So, when it comes to the finals, though, that's where everything changes. The pressure's on all of a sudden, and mentally it challenges you. So I think it's good. Honestly, it went all the way to the edge. It went all the way to the tiebreaker. It's what we love seeing. I think Wolverines going to learn a lot out of it. They're going to look at it and go, what went well for them? What didn't work well for them? I thought they had some right ideas. Some of the brawl was definitely, some of the brawl potential and some of the cores were good. Some of the cores that were a bit weaker, well, they're going to go back and refine them a little bit. So, and hopefully we'll see some of them in BL next league, for next season. Hopefully we see some of them ANZPL. So.
Yeah, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it. Those were some good games, to be honest. And I know it's probably the attacking side win. Not the advantage. It's fun to watch the attacking side win because the game doesn't get drawn out and it doesn't go down to someone running away, etc., etc., etc. But that was fun. I really enjoyed it. Some great games. It was an absolute pleasure to have it here on the ANZPL broadcast. Commiseration to the Wolverines. 4-1 short. Their undefeated season ends up with a defeat at the grand final, losing by just one battle. But it was an epic match, very, very close. And congratulations once again to the Leopards. So many great players in there. And Skell, not washed up at all. Elfish Guy is the washed up one. We'll see. Maybe Skell in the winning team next season for ANZPL. All right, that's halfway through the night. That's the B-League final done and dusted. We're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, it's the Skorpions up against the Sentinels. It's not the grand final for the ANZPL, even if you thought it might be. It is our third placed match. The two highest seeds from the end of the regular season going head-to-head. We'll be back after this quick break.
Wow, that was a tough one.
I'm telling you, that last one was lucky. I was reloading, or I'd have taken him out in just 2 shots.
Yeah. We've all heard this story before.
Hey, we kicked their butts. That's what's important.
These folks were seriously stronger.
What do you know about strong folks? I hear there's an even more dangerous foe. A deadly force. They come from a town called Mirny. They appear only around Halloween. Year after year, they look as they've been cursed. And there's a myriad of them, coming at you from all angles.
And their chief commander. Well, they say he cannot be destroyed.
Do you think they can get us here?
Got you. How could you believe something like that, dude? They don't even exist.
Huh?
That's none of our business anyway. But if you want to see that it's all a scary story made for nights like these, I'll make sure we have extra boosters. Just in case.
Commanders, this month's Prime Gaming Drop will get you all set for Halloween. Along with a collection of mighty premium tanks and other premium goodies to choose from, you'll also get a scary outfit, a spooky decal, a ghostly medal, a brand new set of battle missions. And last but not least, for those who are playing the Mirny Hope event, the October package provides you 10 decryption keys to progress through the event faster. Just remember, you will only get the keys if you claim the package and log into the game before the end of the event. Want to experience Halloween like never before? Simply click Claim Offer on the dedicated World of Tanks Prime Gaming page. Link your Amazon and World of Tanks accounts. Then click the Allow button to redeem the offer. It's that simple. Now let's get your goodies. Already in the game? Just exit and log in again. Visit the official website to learn more. Oh, and Commanders, be afraid. Be very afraid. Boo.
Commanders, the incident in Mirny is still ongoing. Last time, the heroism and valor of your comrades helped us get important information about Mirny and the Immortal. A new operation will begin very soon. It's codenamed Hope. It's going to be hard, but we believe in our commanders. Now, it's time to go after the Immortal.
We're in the required phase.
The area is limited. It's here somewhere. Report as soon as you have visual contact.
The Immortal is in sight. It's advancing towards us.
Don't get too close. Its aura is active.
One of ours is hit. Fire back! The armor is too strong. We can't penetrate it.
Keep firing. We have every reason to believe it's vulnerable.
Penetration! There's a small weak spot near the turret. Fire at will!
Commander, a group of enemy vehicles has been spotted near you.
Focus on the main target. The Immortal is hit. I repeat, the Immortal is hit. Good job, guys. We did it. Let's go home. Abort! Abort!
This is the first group that engaged the Immortal, and we lost communication with them. But their courage taught us that the Immortal can be hurt. And that means we can destroy it, but it won't be easy. Your mission is more challenging than ever. You will receive 6 unique vehicles. 3 are available right away. The other 3 will become available over time. The quick and agile Hornet, the dangerous and versatile Cerberus, the sturdy Double with 2 guns, the Grenadier with an auto-reloading howitzer, the resilient and unstoppable Malachite, and the Legio Ferrata, a fusion of mobility and firepower. You can equip each vehicle with 3 of 7 special consumables. They are divided into team and personal consumables. Before you equip them, consider your combat style. If it's a frontline tank, think about using emergency repairs and energy shield. Surviving will become much easier. If your vehicle is quick and has an auto-loader, the combination of Energy Shield and Born Ready will help you rush behind enemy lines and dish out heaps of damage at no damage to yourself. Study and combine consumables. This way, you will increase the vehicle's performance and open up new tactical opportunities for yourself. Before a battle, you can form a platoon with up to 5 players. But even for such a platoon, the raid into Mirny won't be a walk in the park. Everything will depend on the level of mission difficulty. There are 3, low, medium, and high. You can start a mission at the next level only after completing the final stage of the previous one. Low difficulty is the starting point to understand the rules of the world you are in. There are just 3 phases. They won't be hard to complete, but you can't defeat the Immortal here. You will have to avoid contact with it using a special indicator that will show its approach. Medium and high difficulties will have an additional 4th phase. You can fight the Immortal only in this phase. To cause damage to it, fire at vulnerable spots that are highlighted or use attack consumables. However, the road to phase 4 will be hard. With each transition, visibility worsens and enemy encounters become more difficult. That's why you need to know your enemy. They are the main source of...
Hello and welcome back to ANZPL. It is our second last broadcast of the season, I guess. Second last broadcast of the year. 2021's almost done. This was supposed to be the great year for us, Jordan. It's been a pretty average year, but we've managed to get 2 seasons of tanks in. We've had some epic battles. Our Season 3 Grand Final next week on Saturday is not the teams we expected. It's the Panthers and the Matildas, and that's going to be a cracker of a match. I honestly don't know who's going to come out on top, but tonight, right now, our 3rd place match, and got to say thanks to the Wargaming gods for giving us a third place match, because we wouldn't have got to see the Sentinels and the Skorpions go head to head in the finals otherwise. And this is one of my favorite matches when we get to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of storylines that you can really look at for these two teams. I feel like there's great rivalries between these two as well. And almost all of the matches seem to go to the distance or provide some sort of interesting, like, little tidbit here or there, or some sort of compelling viewing for some reason, whether or not it's like a 5-4 or, whatever. We get something pretty exciting all the time.
We certainly do. So this is it. It's the Sentinels up against the Skorpions. It's Seed 1 v Seed 2 from the regular season, which end up getting knocked out in last week's semi-finals. The Sentinels, Kev, they've had a pretty good season up until now. Honestly, they were going to be our back-to-back champions. And I kind of feel, this sounds really dumb, but if they didn't lose last week, they probably would have been our grand final champions.
I'm not too necessarily certain about that. I would...
yeah, well, you're wrong.
I don't know about that, but you're the one that predicted Matildas, and you're not backing them now at this stage. If we were in a hypothetical world where it's the Sentinels up against the Matildas, I wouldn't be too certain about that, because like, Sentinels are susceptible to some lapses in form. They're generally decently consistent, but in the weeks that they're off, I mean, that's where the upsets can happen.
They didn't have too many upsets, though. They did lose to the Matildas at the start. We know that was kind of down to the Sentinels doing some silly stuff. Then to lose to the Action X, I guess that's a bit of a weird one. But the rest of the season was pretty good. The only close one going forward was against the Skorpions, Jordan. And then, yeah, last week's result was kind of out of the blue. How did we get here? Crazy times from the Panthers.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was like Sentinels underperforming. I think there was a little bit of that, but there was also this sort of the sentiment that Panthers overperformed and really went above and beyond, and as they have continued to do so over the course of the season. Like, they've gone from strength to strength, and I felt like they peaked at the right time. I guess maybe not quite the right time. Like, if that was their peak, then maybe they left it a little bit too early, and they need to have something left in the tank for the grand final. But that's for us to discuss next week.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I thought Sentinels kind of looked a bit out of sorts last week, and I'm wondering if that's something that's going to follow through today as well. If they're just not feeling as comfortable, or something's gone on, or whatever it may be. I don't know. They don't feel like that dominant force that they once were.
Well, certainly the way in which they went down last week. I don't know if this is a stupid question, and this could be a stupid question, Jordan. But was it just that I kind of get the impression that maybe the Sentinels lineup is good against playing the typical meta that we see in ANZPL. And last week wasn't a typical meta. And as soon as they faced it, they weren't able to deal with it.
What was that for me? I thought that was for Kev. But
I did say Jordan, but yeah, that's okay.
Sometimes I forget what my name is. You understand, of course, getting old. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if Panthers really threw like the book at them in a sense. There was a couple of
This
rounds.
was wild, right? That was pretty wild right there. I love that. But yeah.
There was one or two instances where they looked like they were throwing a bit of a weird round in here and there, but I don't know that it was necessarily always like that. And even still, Sentinels only got 2 out of the 6 games that were played. A bit of a wishy-washy one for me.
100%. The Skorpions, Kev, a bit of a similar story for them. Their season wasn't as smooth, and we were kind of waiting for them. Every week I'd be like, is this the week where they come back? And when you look at the results from the season, I think it does show that we were pretty harsh on them, right? I think it was more so that I kind of feel like maybe we discounted their win over the Panthers in week 1 because the Panthers were trash in week 1. And then they lost to the Bulldogs in week 2. And that was, for me, here's the challenge, right? How well are you going to go against the Bulldogs? And the Bulldogs did look really good against them. When you look at the season as a whole, though, Karath, like it's a pretty good-looking season up to the point where you lose to the Matildas in the semis.
Yeah, I mean, that's any season, right? You could 4-0 all your opponents in week 1 to week 7, and if you lose in the semis, that's it. You're kind of donezo. So, I mean, once again, I feel like me in particular, actually, look at the Skorpions as the team that should perform much higher than where they should be sitting at most of the time. I think I'm one of their harshest critics. I always think they should be a team that's pushing into the championship contention. They have a top-tier caller. They have top-tier players. They've got the synergy because they have the same core over multiple seasons. So the question for me is, how can they never make it into the finals, right? So
yeah,
I don't know if that's a fair criticism to
I don't know.
Maybe it's pressure, something else that's going on. Maybe the other teams are peaking, but you can't make that excuse. Other teams can't be peaking all these seasons at the right time, and you're the team that is struggling to make their way into the finals. And once again, I feel like that's maybe unfair criticism for me as we're looking at the top three, because I'm going to really good players from both sides. But I feel like, once again, it's that the Skorpions, based on paper, based on performance, based on every single indicator, they should be making their way to the finals, but they haven't for 3 seasons. And it's just a question. It's
got to ask why.
How do we have the faith for next season, right? How can we have the faith
where's
for next
the faith?
season?
How many seasons of faith can we have? Yes, the Skorps got the results towards the end of the season, but each of those last 3 results went to a tiebreaker. They lost 1, they won 2 more, giving away two or three every single 2 or 3 battles every time you play is probably not the way to win, and it certainly bit them last week. Our maps, though: Prokhorovka, Himmelsdorf, Moravanka, and Ghost Town. Love to see this one go to Ghost Town. Look, this could go either way. I think it's going to come down to which version of these 2 teams turn up tonight. If this was the grand final, they were duking it out for 10K. They'd be bringing their A game. It would be an epic battle. I think that would go to the tiebreaker. For the 3rd place match, your heart is no longer filled with joy. It's great to play some World of Tanks, Jordan, but the loss from last week would certainly be hurting me. So that's the question. Which version of the Sentinels, which version of the Skorpions turns up tonight, and which of those 2 versions is the better? Who's going to come 3rd in the ANZPL Season 3?
Well, I mean, I think we already have the answer as to which version of the Skorpions is going to turn up, because we got to see them in this position last season. They played in that 3rd place game, and it wasn't altogether too impressive as far as I was concerned, Kev. But the Sentinels, we've never seen them in a 3rd place match before. They have never been in this position. And I don't know, do they feel like they've got something to prove to ensure that they at least take 3rd out of this season? I don't know. The other thing to note, of course, is Skorpions do not have JT tonight, which is obviously a big blow for them. We saw that in the final week of regular season where, you know, it didn't go so well against the Conquerors. Against the Conquerors, a team that came dead last. They went 3-2 until JT came through to that tiebreaker, and already not off to a great start with Napalm getting absolutely booked climbing onto the hill.
Yeah, and if anyone's wondering what's going on, I think Sentinels, obviously, they're going into this. They're playing to win, of course, at the end of the day. Every single team is. And for Skorpions, JT, you might have seen him in chat earlier, but something's come up in real life for him, unfortunately, which means that he can't participate. Otherwise, he'd be there with the boys. I've been talking a little bit more about this match. Skorpions trying to go for the hill control. It's not worked out for them because the IS-7s, they're going to always outbrawl some of these tanks. Now the 5A is stuck in a very awkward position, and Benny's not even part of the fight just yet. Wymo, yeah, sure. I mean, one of the IS-7s do go down, so the trade fight does come back, but eventually the Super Conqueror is going to be pressuring the 5As in mid, and that's a fight that's always going to be favoring the Super Conks. Rainbow as well should be off clip in the bat chat pretty soon. They'll be able to clear out Aussie, so this is already looking like a bit of a poor situation. It's actually the focus fire into the 5As in the mid instead.
Yeah, I think you really need to see Benny get in there and sort of start using this HP a little bit. He needs to be taking some aggressive trades because he's going to be the only one that is going to be able to do so. Raspberry and Knight, both a one-shot. There's an aggressive maneuver coming down the hill from the Sentinels. They know that's the isolated tank. Aussie was never going to survive. It was really a matter of time, and I think that was pretty much the case for the Skorpions. As soon as Napalm got taken down and you had those tanks that were low in mid, you could see the writing on the wall for Skorpions on this defensive side. Benny won't last too long here. Super Conquerors are going to come through and pretty much finish what they started. This was a very, very dominant win for the Sentinels. It doesn't even look close, and Skorpions are going to walk out of this first round of Prokhorovka and sort of wonder, did we even get to play that round?
I mean, it's going to be a good question. I think it's, I mean, just down to the strategies, right? They've lost heal once before for the side of the Sentinels, but they're not going to lose heal again, especially not with 2 IS-7s like that.
Well, they full send it, and attacking sides continue to win outside of that tiebreaker, where the Leopards picked that one up. But I think maybe that's kind of what we're going to see tonight, gents. This a little bit different style of play, and it's fun to watch, and the games are quick. So I'm not sure if that's a positive or a negative, but it's a positive for the Sentinels right now, Kev. because they are 1-0 up and they looked pretty good doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's we saw this with the Conquerors, with the Skorpions, right? Because we can talk a bit about the Sentinels, how they do it. I feel like that was your stock standard. They're still the core 5 over there. But for the Skorpions, I'm going... There is a big difference between having JT there and not having JT there. I think I'll leave it there. And obviously, it's not... Like I said earlier, JT had something coming up in real life, so it's not his fault that he's not there, but it does hurt Skorpions' chances of taking the victory over here or making a competitive series. We saw it against the Conquerors. Then without JT is like, I don't know, a 4-foot elfish guy. And then Skorpions with JT is elfish guy but jacked. So that's literally the difference.
It's a weird analogy, Kev. That's weird.
You know what I mean? It's what do you mean, Jordan? Don't you wish you were jacked like a tank sometimes?
Are you suggesting that a 4-foot version of me is not good?
I don't know, Ben. What do you think? I don't think a 4-foot version elfish guy was good. Just like that.
Well, it fit his name. It would fit his name, to be fair. But his height's the only thing he's got going for him. Let's be real. So, you know. Anyway, look. Again. Speed, loving that. Speed in my fantasy league team for tonight, by the way. I don't know about you guys, but I went 4 stars, not 5 stars. And this one was over, as we said, very, very quickly. Full send from the Sentinels, pretty much.
I'm just wondering, with Aussie actually driving into the dip, could that be the difference? 2 CSs up here into the bowl on the on top of the hill early on might have made a bit of a difference. Because Aussie dropped into the river, they couldn't commit both CSs up there. I'm just wondering, obviously, hypothetically, is that
possible? It's possible.
Yeah.
But I wonder if, in that case, if you have Aussie in that CS63, does Rainbow just send it? You know, because he sort of held back a little bit. It was the 2 IS7s versus the 1 CS. In that case, I think Rainbow just sends it, and it's the 2 IS7s and the Bat Chat, and the Bat Chat drops into the dip. The CS63 still ultimately do go down, get overmatched, and then the fight in mid doesn't quite go enough of the way to Skorpions that the result more or less is the same, would be my assumption as to how that would play out.
Yeah, I mean, the focus fire from the Sentinels was solid as well. They understood which targets needed to kind of get bled out. The Super Conquerors helped really well on the hill. And that's down to, I think, just remembering an earlier match in this season. I think it was against the Adelaide Action X on Prokhorovka where they lost because they didn't expect the defensive team to all commit on the hill, and they just got overwhelmed. And that setup seemed a lot more kind of solid against that, where they wanted to take the right side of the rails, but they decided to do it safely by making sure they had the tanks to punish a hill play, to punish a town play, then get into a position where they could force that cap pressure eventually. So I felt like it's been a lesson learnt for the Sentinels, and we saw that being applied in full force there.
The question is, okay, so we've seen the Sentinel lineup, the Sentinels lineup that's turned up tonight. We've seen the Skorpions on defense. So is this going to follow in the same vein as what we saw in the B League? Skorpions need to step up now because we've seen this Skorpions team before. We saw them, I think, in week 7 of ANZPL. And they got there in the end, but they only got there. They only just got there, Jordan. So I don't think only just getting there is enough against a team like the Sentinels.
No, I agree. Even a Sentinels that has not managed to make it through to the grand final is still going to be a pretty difficult prospect to deal with, particularly when they're bringing their full core roster. You know, they've got a lot of good players here that are still ready to pretty much dominate a game like this if they get given the opportunity. Rainbow cops a shot on the scouting run and destroys a lot of people's livelihoods. See someone that's going to wake up with half a house and they'll be quite disappointed by that. But hey,
they get to wake up, Jordan.
Sometimes they just have to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, if you wake up and you lost half the house, it could be better than not waking up at all. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Means you lost the right half of your house if you wake up.
Yeah, you've lost the half the house. At least you got to wake up. Yeah, that's true.
All right, so Sentinel's actually taking this hill control. I think it's actually not too bad. Rainbow cops a shot because he identifies, he cops, I think, 2 shots actually, which is not as good. But he identifies where one of the CS63s are. And now it looks like the IS7's getting into the town. They're getting the Super Conks into a nice position. The IS7 is, I think that's going to be Wymo because normally he's just left to die. Just going to be out by himself or at C5. So there's a bit of a position, a bit of a weakness for the Skorpions to try to exploit. If they can try to dig out the I7. Of course, it's going to be very difficult considering he's going to be hulled down. He's anchoring nicely enough in speed. Well, we've seen what work he can do with the Super Conqueror.
Knight is getting kind of clapped at the moment. Benny and his Super Conk also lit up. It's not the worst of starts for Skorpions. They are going to get the 1-2 lane control. They've gotten a bit of damage out onto Rainbow in his Bat Chat, and damage onto a Bat Chat is always quite valuable.
But
where
the
do
problem,
you go from here?
Yeah, because I was going to say the problem is you've got damage onto Rainbow's Bat Chat, but the issue is okay. The two options you've got right now with the CSs is you decide to recommit into heal. The IS7, the Super Conk will punish that very, very heavily. And as a result of that, it's like, okay, Rainbow's got time to get off the hill, so they can concede this hill control. You rock the IS7 back, you get the Super Conk back into the riverbed, and everything's okay. Even if there's one cap pressure that's going to be placed, you still have time to rotate your tanks. So for the Skorpions to succeed, I do feel like they need to get the IS7 and Super Conqueror over mid at the same time the CSs are going to cross. And you can see Cindy actually committing low down at the moment.
Oh, nice shot. Only get the 386 roll though.
Yeah, I think that was actually from the Bat Chat. Because Rainbow got lit after making that shot. So
yeah, Cindy's got the assist points as well for it, so he gets the spot for it. Well, I was going to ask you one question as well, Kev. I mean, Sentinels, they seem to be loving the IS7 at the moment. Any map that we've watched them play, it's like at least one IS7, a lot of the times two IS7. So I don't know why they're the only team that really seems to be like hard pushing the IS7 as much as possible. Yeah, there are other teams that are picking it, but it's definitely not been a core feature to most teams' compositions except for the Sentinels. So
I think that's what Rainbow trusts Wymo to do. He doesn't trust Wymo to have enough brain cells to play any other tank other than the IS7. That's a joke, by the way. I know Wymo's smart enough to play a couple of multiple tanks, but on a serious answer, I think they picked the IS7 because of its armor profile. It has better armor profile than the 277 because of the Grousers, because of the oil as well. It has the same maneuverability. So all of a sudden, you've got almost the same maneuverability as the 277. Sure, it might have a bit worse gun handling, but it's got better armor. It's got better view range as far as I understand, or maybe the same view range. It has better, because you've got the Grousers, it's got this really good terrain resistance. All of a sudden, you're pedaling uphill. It's not an issue at all. So a lot of positives, barely any negatives. Turbocharger and Grousers, talking about that. Now look at this. Skorpions are placing pressure onto the one flag. Iron Guard needs to be careful because obviously alongside with Wymo, because there can be an overdump. So Wymo playing this position quite cautiously. He's going to be by himself. Now Oz is committing in the CS63 as well. Wymo's got a decision to make. He's going to commit over.
Or not.
Is he just going to chill there? Because he's
tracked.
He's tracked. Yeah, he's tracked. I'm like trying to wonder what's going on. I'm like, okay, he's tracked, which is really good focus fire that's coming out. And there it is. That's really good focus, really good targeted shots. And now a 4 and 5, but the HP is still relatively equal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a big question mark as to what is going to happen from here. The Sentinels have that numbers disadvantage, which means they've got one less gun in the game, but they might very quickly be able to equalize. Napalmer down to 472 with a good roll from the IS7. He'll be dealt with. Maybe a little bit more difficult in that respect for the Super Conqueror, but for now he's survived. He's gotten into a dip, he's gotten to safety, and they're still keeping that extra gun in the game, but playing a lot of HP here is the Skorpions. Given they're on the attack, they're going to have to push in the direction of the Sentinels, who have essentially corralled them into one quarter of the map.
Yeah, and Rainbow's now just reinforcing the weak points. Over here right now, there's actually no position that you can really make it work at the end of the day for the Skorpions, because there's no position you can overdump. You've got these tanks that you can threaten people with, but nothing that can actually convincingly push over. Maybe this is what's going to work. Two tanks committing over at the same time onto Cindy, while two isolating the Super Conqueror and Iron Guard. But you can see Speed's got a couple of cross shots. So does Rainbow as well. Rainbow can just look the other way or decide to dump in himself. Depends on what you want to do. And because the HP has been played out so far, sure, they might lose Iron Guard, who commits back over on the rails. He's a one-shot away, but now they've got the numbers advantage back in the favor of the Sentinels because they're able to convert the low HP members. And just like that, the Sentinels advantage comes forward. Sure, they're down on a 4 and 5, but they have the HP. They understand where they need to rotate. And sure, the Skorpions go across. They get rid of another tank, but this is where Speed, he's got on the ammo rack off repair. Rainbow can get a new clip in. Cindy's got HP to work with, and they're on the defense as well. It's all over.
Yeah, I'd say so. I would say so. Raspberry and Benny, they don't really have much outplay potential with these two tanks, so even if the HP totals were a little bit closer, I'm just not seeing it happen. Speed could literally just drive over here and take them out himself. Doesn't look like he's going to. He's going to play the waiting game. He's going to be patient. He's going to be smart. But really, with that amount of HP, he could just drive at Benny and Raspberry and probably still win this one. He's definitely working hard for the win as well. I can tell you that.
I mean, Rainbow's already like just in the railway line. Oh
No.
god!
No.
Oh,
Stop it.
no.
Production, stop it. I'm gonna throw up. Please.
We need to get Sandman off this roller coaster, otherwise he's going to be in trouble. Where's that shot? That's a big one from Rainbow.
He must have slid it through the railways or through the train. Like, imagine a shell just going through this little opening. Yeah, I wish I had his RNG, because as soon as I try to do that with any tank, even a Super Conqueror, it decides to fly into the moon. Speed is making this one a bit more painful. He's driving a little bit closer, trying to maybe get the Rem kill. I think Cindy's had enough, so Cindy's going to go for the kill at the end of the day. And there it is, Skorpions, or not Skorpions, Skorpions going down 0-2 as Sentinels closing out quite convincingly towards the end, 100%ing it, having a bit of fun.
Looking good, doing it in style, just like the Karen. Honestly, I don't get motion sickness normally, but for some reason, when it spins like that, I start feeling sick. I don't know about you guys, but I can't deal with it. It's too much. That was quite interesting because they certainly had the gun advantage, didn't they? The Skorpions at one point. And I was kind of like, this could be pretty close. I think maybe the Sentinels can probably bring this one back and again speed up on top of the chart, selfish guy. And they do bring it back. A gun down, HP pretty close, but they turn it around and manage to do it. And yeah, look at that. From Rainbow, he doesn't miss very often. 15 shots fired and then 8 hits. And I don't know. That's it. What do you think, Jordan, about that? 50-50.
I think it's fine. I think Sentinel's good at the moment. You know, you can't really complain about anything. The fact you sort of mentioned Skorpions have the 4v5. They have the advantage with the gun in the game, but they don't have the opportunity to use it because Sentinels just took so much map control. Skorpions were pretty much perma-lit in all of their positions, and there was crossfires established for the Sentinels as well. So they're just firing from the outside in. Skorpions is trying to sort of defend from the inside out, and inevitably you're all sort of looking in different directions. You're being peeked from different angles, whereas the Sentinels, all they have to do is focus essentially on one angle. They just have to focus inwards, and that's it. And it makes life easy for themselves. So they sort of walk away with a pretty comfortable win in the end. And I mean, not really much more to say about it. I just think Sentinels is looking like the better team tonight, and they probably do walk away with this as a 4-0 the way things are going.
Yeah, they could be taking away their extra $500 pretty quickly. $3,000 dues for third, $2,500 for fourth. Not bad. We've come a long way for ANZPL. $10K for first place, $5K for second, and paid out all the way through the end as well. So, yeah, good time to be a tanks player in the ANZ region, that's for sure. But Kev, yeah, as Jordan said, the Sentinels 2-0 up. They've done it on Prokhorovka as well, which was the Skorpions pick. And we'll head in a moment to Himmelsdorf, the map picked by Sentinels. Again, I don't know how much you can take away from these maps apart from sometimes picking up that attacking side win, and picking up attacking side win on Prokhorovka. Not a bad start at all there for the Sentinels, let's be real.
Yeah, like I said, comes down to the fundamentals, and you can see even I'd argue that both teams probably haven't practiced too much in the last in this last week, obviously, but you can still see the fundamentals on how it comes out to play. Even when they had that tank deficit, they were able to make it really work out. And we say that so many times, right? It's like a 5-4. You'll probably heard us being hyped sometimes and going, "Wow, this is fantastic that the team's that's got 5 tanks." And all the times we're going, actually, yeah, they get this tank pick, but it's not the end of the world just yet. And this is the exact reason why it's not the end of the world. HP is relatively equal. You have the correct positioning. All of a sudden, the Skorpions, they commit, but they don't really have the tanks in the right position to continue the pain train because the Sentinels are relatively hold down. They're supporting each other really well. So,
and that was even pretty unlucky there for Wymo. This is what we were talking about earlier, right? He kind of made the right play there. He drives over towards his attackers, was going to find himself a 1v1 and then gets tracked. And we're like, what are you doing there, bro? And in the end, he goes down. And that was what put them at the disadvantage. But the Sentinels chilling, having a great time, and coming through, picking this one up in style. Not bad at all. feeling pretty good for the Sentinels now, Kev, I reckon. Like, I know we were like, which version of these two teams is turning up tonight?
Yeah.
Kind of feels like Sentinels are on point right now.
Sentinels just playing kind of what they need to do, stock standard. And I know I'm harping on this point so much, but it's once again, and we saw this before. It was always that hypothetical, like what happens if X player is not playing, especially when you have a vital person. And we saw it 2 weeks ago with the Skorpions versus Conquerors. We're seeing it again now. What happens when you take JT out of the Skorpions lineup? It just doesn't seem as convincing of a lineup. All of a sudden, it's just something, the magic doesn't seem there. Just the snappiness in terms of the calls, even just like the responsiveness, 2-3 seconds where normally you see Skorpions going and understanding the timing. It's not there all of a sudden, and it doesn't seem like much. 2 to 4 seconds of hesitation, and that's it. They're done.
Yeah, and we've seen that a few times tonight so far. Very obvious in the B-League finals, and see it coming through here again. We'll head back to Himmelsdorf the second time. We've seen it tonight. This is the Sentinels pick. This was what I thought was going to be our grand final next week. We get it as the third place match tonight, and a chance right now, Real Elfish Guy, this could be it. We could be done. We could be done by 9:30 AEDT because the Sentinels just need to pick up 2 on Himmelsdorf, and they pick them up.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely could do it, couldn't they? No IS-7s this time, though, Kev, for the Sentinels. A couple of E100s. Super Conqueror and 2 VZ55s. Also a similarly heavy lineup for the Skorpions, though they opt towards a bit of a heavier lineup from the Super Conquerors rather than the E100s. 113's coming through as well as another VZ55. Interesting setup from the Sentinels, though, particularly with Rainbow's position here. A little bit of a trap perhaps being laid.
I mean, this 113's copped one from Wymo already, so Wymo sliding one into the ammo rack. That forces the repair kit, and that could be a big problem, especially considering right now it does look like the Sentinels are looking to have a bit of a brawl. So VZ55's tucking in, but Speed does get spotted out eventually. He should be safe, and the E100's ready to kind of side scrape and assist out over here. Pretty hard to dig out the VZ55s, in all honesty. Even if you feel like you have the tank advantage, you might not have necessarily the HP advantage. Good shot coming in from Knight. And here we go. It's an entire dump into it. VZ's just trying to play, side scraping with each other. Good focus fire into Rainbow, but as soon as Rainbow goes down, Speed could use them as a hold down or vice versa. They're trying to protect each other's holes. E100's coming forward as well. This is really good for the Skorpions right now. They bled all this HP back.
They certainly have, and the E100s, I mean, they're going to arrive eventually, but are they going to arrive a little too late? The Super Conqueror versus the VZ55 battle up on the other side of the map is also ensuing. That should probably go the way of Wymo if he manages to connect his shots, but down here in the 4-on-4, I mean, I'm still sensing a possibility that the Sentinels could walk away with this one. The E100s did arrive, and they've managed to bring it back to a 3-on-3. The only sort of takeaway for me, Kev, is that VZ55 is not going to be long for this world, won't get another clip out, and now Cindy and Iron Guard are in a 2-on-3, and the Super Conquerors are still alive, and those are tanks that just continue to pump damage out one after another. Wymo eventually catches Raspberry, though, and this is where things start to come a little bit unstuck, maybe.
Not necessarily, because if Benny went down over there and allowed Iron Guard a few more shots in, that could have been a little bit more of a difference. Benny does eventually go down, though, and they're just going to stay hidden from Wymo. So Skorpions will be able to at least get this this attacking round victory. So unfortunately for the Sentinels, the VZ55 is not really working out. I mean, all you can really do as Wymo is maybe hope that you get lucky on tonight, get a really good roll. Then 1-on-1 with Napalmer if you're in a good position. Maybe get an Ignite. I always talk about these hypotheticals. It's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, he's on the defense. Anything's possible.
Yeah, but 4 minutes and 40 seconds to try to counterplay with is just too much time. He's doing the right thing, getting into a bit of a different position and getting unlit. So this is all about trying to outplay your opponents at the moment. And Knight does actually spot him out. So if Wyman actually went the other way around, it could have been a bit of a different story. He's trying to catch maybe a bit of a glimpse of a shot into a 113. But the problem is he's backing himself into a dead end.
Well, he kind of needs to find that free shot, doesn't he? He kind of needs to find that free shot into the 113.
Oh, hang on a second. They're splitting up. We've seen how this goes.
I really just wanted to see Wymo drive forward instead of backwards. I thought he was going to, but Napalmer now is going to get shots in the back for free, and that's pretty much donezo.
Yep.
If he would have just driven at night and maybe taken the one-on-one, not the East and no necessarily, but if he would have done that, there actually was a chance that he could win this one. He can take out Knight, drive past him, and sort of just continue to play the cat and mouse game with Napalmer. It would have been a long, drawn-out victory for the Sentinels, but not the case. The Skorpions managing to bounce back, and they pick themselves up one win on the attack of Himmelsdorf.
Yep, got a game back on our hands now, gents. The Skorpions finally turning up. They try the old, let's just drive most of our tanks at our opponents and see if it works out, and it did. So can't fault them for that. It felt like it could have got a little bit close. There were moments there, gents, where I was 50-50 on what was the right call. When the Centurion started chasing down the VZ-55, I was like, would you rather try and make this a 4v4? You don't remember?
Centurions?
Sorry, when the Conqueror started chasing down the VZ-55. It's been a long week, okay? I was like, that probably seems like the right play for Wymo. But then you've left you guys in a 3v4. I guess it doesn't turn out any better in the end. Let's be real. And Wymo did a ton of damage in that Super Conk this time around. But the Skorpions just a little bit too good there, Jordan.
Yeah, I think the fact that they got off to such a good start pretty much won them that game. I mean, the VZ-55s, especially Rainbow, he just gets like one clip out and that's it. Speed gets a couple, but to be fair, they both really struggled to find a whole lot of value in that because they were the tanks that were frontlining, and you don't really want your VZ-55s to be frontlining. You'd much rather it been the E100s from the outset. The fact that the VZ-55s just get deleted is obviously not good news, and Skorpions are able to sort of capitalize on the numbers advantage. It's just too slow for the E100s to rotate. Like, the Sentinels made the decision quite quickly. They were on the move, but Cindy and Ironclad are just in the slowest tanks of the game, basically, and so they don't get there until one of the VZ-55s is gone, and it's always a case of trying to catch up from behind, and when you're playing catch up from behind and you still have a tank in that fight that is an autoloader, not a single-shot tank, inevitably you're going to get out-DPM'd, even though you've got a couple of E100s there and you've got that big health pool. It's just, unfortunately, it's just not enough. I mean, Skorpions had the better tanks for that fight, and they had the better fight from the outset. So Sentinels, I think, did well to keep it as close as they did.
Yeah, and we know how good those Super Conks go towards the end of the battle. There's Wymo in the Super Conqueror for the Sentinels, picking up one, but by the time he gets back into the battle, and you look at this and go, oh, maybe this could have played out better. I think Iron Guard even goes for a ram here on Benny, perhaps hoping for something, not going to get anything out of it. And yeah, at this point, I think they do okay, but they were down from the start, Kev, and, miracles do happen, but it was pretty difficult for the Sentinels to get back in, particularly when there's battles going out of line of sight from Wymo down the line. So
I was wondering if there was a hypothetical world where maybe Wymo could put a shot into the side of his allied E100 and ricochet it into the 113. Now, that would require some serious mental gymnastics for it to work. It does happen in tanks. Ricochets can...
I killed someone off a ricochet once.
Yeah.
Like playing snooker.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like advanced physics in snookers. You can actually ricochet off the side of a tank and hit another tank. Obviously, it's not something you want to go for, but God knows how many times it has happened where I fight at a tank and you see armor not penetrate and you still see damage come up and you're going, wait, what have I done there? And you realize you hit a different tank versus the tank you intended to hit. So I also want to point out that the Skorpions realize I've not seen Russian play, and it's kind of like that's another factor. I'm going, that's impressive considering they picked up one. Russian was not playing in that one. I don't think he was playing on Roth Driver. They're missing JT and Russian. You know the guy that won the All-Stars? The Alienware All-Stars? Yeah, he's not playing.
Well, good thing I didn't put him on my all-star team for tonight, gents. So let's head back to Himmelsdorf. The Skorpions looking to even up the score here. It went okay for them on attack. Let's see what they can do on defense. Looks like they're going to stick their tanks together once again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Skorpions are doing pretty well, all things considered. The fact that they've got a bit of a fresher lineup, obviously Benny and Raspberry have played a little bit here and there for the Skorpions, but they definitely haven't been part of the core roster. And you're also lacking your caller to take a round off of Sentinels. I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest, from them. Knight and Benny in the Super Conquerors will be leading the charge, and it might not be a charge that they want to run into, because that is a very, very scary looking setup from the Sentinels. Already some good damage coming through. That'll be the E100 of Napalmer just sliding a shot in onto speed. decent map control taken here by the Skorpions, and I'm quite interested to see what the response is actually going to be from the Sentinels, because they do have the two E100s driving along down by the church, but they're going to run into a couple of 50Bs, and I mean, there's enough damage in these 50Bs to take out those E100s, or rather, to take out one of the E100s if they pen all of their shots. Raspberry now having bounced one is going to mean that they won't actually have enough in the clip.
But Aussie's actually got the full clip into speed over here, and I think you take that opportunity right now. It's a bit foolish not to go for this one, but the E100s can now pressure into the Super Conquerors, and here we go, the fight really beginning right now. The focus fire needs to be into these Super Conquerors. You've got the advantage over here, but you can see the 50B is also shifting their focus fire speed coming into the fight. He should be able to clip out Benny over here. Now the E100 should be able to take down the Super Conk, and then by the time that the VZs come off clip, I mean, it just comes down to getting rid of the single shots right now, then focusing down the 50Bs. So Rainbow decided to go for the E100 instead. There should be just enough to get rid of Knight. And I have to say, I just barely favor the Sentinels for now, just in this close quarters position.
Yeah, I certainly think so as well. The VZ55s, though, on reload makes it look not quite as comfortable. Raspberry, full HP 50B. I mean, there's still definitely an argument to be made that the Skorpions can walk away with a win here. They just need to take out these VZ55s. Before the clips come out, Rainbow is about to start firing shots, but I think it may be just a little too late. And Napalmer takes him down before any real damage can come through. Now Raspberry trying to run. Wymo should be able to clean him up, but decides to go for the kill onto Aussie instead. That's fair enough. Good decision. But again, Wymo finds himself in a 2-on-1, and I gotta say, I'm also not sure that this one is going to be winnable. I mean, he can do some
Wymo
good damage onto
wins
Napalmer, but
I'm saying it now. Wymo wins. You ready?
I don't think so. Not
you're
with the
overestimating his abilities, Ben.
Super Conqueror can never be beat.
Not with a 50B. All Napalmer needs to do is just like press R twice and just figure out where you need to go. Yeah, so why am I doing the one-way climb, actually getting the better of Raspberry? Hang on a second here. Maybe Ben's got something right now. The E100 is a little bit slower than the Super Conqueror. Raspberry clears the corner just in time.
Raspberry's got to book it. He just has to run and get unlit and
Drift King
let
around this
Napalmer
corner, yeah.
try to find the information for him to sort of swing in on the flank. But ultimately, Skorpions are also on the defense, you know, so they don't even actually have to take this fight against Wymo if they don't get forced to.
Wymo will just barely have a glimpse.
Yeah, he was safe. He was safe. Raspberry is taking a pretty interesting route, though. I mean, I guess Wymo ultimately does get spotted by Napalmer here, so that'll be another free shot in and a bounce off of the E100. Slowly but surely, you can see the cat and mouse game is starting to favor the Skorpions, and I think Wymo's just decided, well, I have to take the fight against Napalmer, but he just has such an awkward position to play from. Napalmer can essentially play hull down for the moment, take some shots as Wymo closes the distance, and in the meanwhile, Raspberry drives his way through for at least one free shot in there, and inevitably, now it's Wymo that's on the run.
Oh, it's ring around the rosy again, isn't it? He has to hope that he gets a really good shot into the E100, but it's not going to work. All Napalmer needs to do is go forward, and there it is. E100 will convert. Skorpions actually draw it pack 2 apiece. Not too bad. Fantastic calling coming out.
Okay, so Wymo doesn't win that. Wymo was half a second away from potentially winning that.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, look, he got a chance.
If he gets the 50B, right,
yeah,
we got a game on our hands. Though, yes, in the attacking position, a little bit tougher. But the Skorpions are back and doing it without a couple of their big players as well. So really cool to see. They brought it back. They've really gone straight through. Look at this. Wymo killing it for my fantasy league right now. I'm going to be way ahead of you tonight, John, unless you picked Wymo too, which you probably did.
I did pick Wymo.
Yeah, feels bad. Well, yeah, Wymo absolutely killing it. But not enough. Left 2 times in a row in the Super Conk as the last player in the team here for the Sentinels. The Skorpions doing enough, getting it through, winning the brawl, and we got a full match on our hands, 2-2 apiece. So pretty exciting times.
Yeah, I actually did have Wymo and Speed, by the way, so I don't know what else you rounded out your composition with, but I think
Aussie and Napalmer. I split the
yeah,
difference.
It's exactly the same. It's literally the exact same, so you're not going to overtake me, I can tell you that much. Either way, look, to be fair, Skorpions getting 2 here, it's 2 apiece. They're doing really well for themselves, and the fact that they're being able to do this without their in-game leader, without their star player, I mean, great step up from the rest of the lads. Napalmer, he had I will say, a very, very rough Prokhorov. Got Napalmer and Aussie did not do anything on that map in the CS63s, but they've come good here on Himmelsdorf. Napalmer in particular has had 2 pretty good rounds, and in that E100, I suppose it's hard not to when you just get put in a position to do damage, and all you have to do is shoot your buttons and click your buttons or whatever, shoot your shells. And Napalmer does that. You know, if you put him in a spot, he's going to do damage. He's going to hit his shots. He's pretty much going to take the tanks out that need to be taken out. He knows the tanks that he's supposed to be focusing down and what he needs to be doing in any given situation. Very experienced player. And so, yeah, very well played by him, but also by Raspberry to sort of survive and be able to keep himself alive, make that one quite easy for Napalmer to clutch out in the end. I mean, the 250Bs do like 2k plus damage each as well. So that's a very good result for Skorpions. If you've got those tanks, it's the same as Batchats. If you've got those tanks, you're doing more than 2k. 1 or 2 of them are surviving late in the game. Chances are you've won. So Skorpions walking away with a 2-2 scoreline now and making it look pretty close.
Yeah, Skorpions, maybe it just took them a while. They realize, wow, this is what our caller is like when we've got a caller who hasn't got a mouthful of Zinger Stacker combo box, right? Like, they can finally hear what their call is saying. It's not a total clear in their mouth. And they're like, oh, this is easy. We can make the big calls.
Maybe that's what we should look at the next season's sponsor. I reckon JT will be all over it. Whoever, I don't know, we can come up with some more content creation, and whoever takes X content gets a year's worth of, I don't know, free food from this particular chain franchise. But I think coming back into the serious part of it, I think Skorpions definitely just kind of going back to a little bit of what we saw earlier on the ANZ BL, honestly, where they're just going for these 5-man brawls, trying to go, all right, we can't out-position, out-maneuver, realistically. Let's just go for out-shooting people. We've got a couple of guys that are pretty good at shooting people. Napalmer, 13 out of 13 pens. 5.4k damage. One of the top damage already inside the season. Anytime you get 4k, that's fantastic. 5k is amazing. It's sublime. We haven't seen the 6k mark hit just yet, but I think eventually we will. And that'll be the day where everyone will rejoice. I feel like 6k is the mark that just can't be reached just yet for a couple of different factors. You're doing at that stage probably about 50% of your team's damage, just a little bit underneath that, which is pretty absurd when you think about it.
This was so close, Wymo. Like, if he's able to hit Raspberry, then he puts himself in the 1v1 up against Napalmer. Who do you think wins, Kev, in that 1v1 if Raspberry's not in the picture? Now, obviously, in this scenario, it's Wymo driving at Napalmer, right? And he's in a pretty tough spot. But you probably don't take that 1v1 in that scenario unless, you've got the 50B behind you as well.
I would technically favor the E100 just by a little bit. I feel like the DPM is just in favor of the Super Conqueror, but because of the armor profile where you have to try to manipulate your tank in a way to try to get the lower plate of the E100 or try to go through the upper plate, look, Napalmer could dictate where he wanted to take the fight. If you wanted to really play cheeky, Napalmer could just go into a corner and just go, all right, you have to come towards me, and then I get to dictate everything. So I still have to favor the defensive side. Exactly. Yep. So I still have to favor the E100, but it just becomes a bit of a weird point, right? Because it's that 50B. Maybe Raspberry was caught a bit out of position, wasn't expecting to be lit for that long, wasn't expecting the Super Conqueror to come over that rubble. That's a one-way rubble, so you can only climb from the courtyard over it. You can't do it the other way around. So it's one of my favorite tricks in Himmelsdorf.
And it was almost paid off. So Wymo tried to make it happen. But as a result, as we said, we have a match on our hands. It's 2 apiece. We're about to head to Moravanka, a very one-sided map. Barely see an attacking side to win. Serious potential for this to go to Ghost Town as the tiebreaker. But Jordan, as much as we rarely see the attacking side win on Muro, tonight has been the night of attacking side wins. And if ever there was a night for a couple of Muro attacking side wins, it could be now. I'm ready. Let's go.
Sure. If ever there was a night for these 2 teams to play Moravanka for the first time this season, it would be tonight as well. Neither team picking it up in the regular season. So I'm not too sure what we're going to get. T100 LT for Rainbow, tank that he likes to find himself in. Definitely very good for scouting. You've got that for Raspberry as well over on the side of the Skorpions. And already a little bit of damage out onto Rainbow. So not a bad start here for Skorpions on the attack. And a very interesting attacking side setup as well, to be fair, with the 3 tanks over toward the Magic Forest plus the T100 LT. This is not the standard attacking side setup that you're going to get every day on Moravanka.
Yeah, especially with this pressure that's coming over onto Rainbow as well. Raspberry really having a go at the moment. He has to be cautious because there are a couple of bat chats behind it. Nice shot from Rainbow. May Palmer is also coming in. The bat chats from Speed as well as Cindy need to come and assist this, but this is going to be a huge overdump at the moment in the forest. 4 tanks against 3. Only now I think they're realizing how much trouble they're in. And the bat chats, I do feel like just need to get the clips off and get out as fast as possible. Rainbow's already a dead man. That's for sure, but he might be able to get underneath the tip. Surely, though, the CSs should be able to get into position.
Yeah, Raspberry and the T100 LT on the chase as well. Super Conqueror was able to put some good shots in, and Speed is still copping damage. I mean, to be fair to Sentinels, they've kind of gotten out of that as unscathed as you can expect to. They haven't lost a tank just yet. Knight is getting farmed by Iron Guard on the hill. Benny went into mid by the church. He wasn't really able to take much of an opportunity from that position. But the Skorpions, I mean, they do the damage that they wanted to. It's just unfortunate that they weren't able to get a kill. I saw 1 or 2 shots missing as Rainbow sort of ducked away. So I think a couple of missed shots from Skorpions might cost them the ease of closing out this attacking side on Muro. But it might not necessarily mean that they still lose the round. I mean, they get that opening pick eventually. It takes a bit longer than they'd have liked. They do lose Benny for their trouble, though. So a T100 LT out of the picture for the cost of a Super Conqueror is a pretty big loss. But the fact that the Batchats are on reload pretty much means that Napalmer can do whatever the hell he wants in that CS63. Just keeps driving forward. And now, 2-for-1 trade. Sentinels in a bit of an awkward spot.
Yeah, the key is just to get into that bowl around K2 and K3, and all of a sudden it becomes so much more awkward. You don't have a T100 LT. Sure, you've got one Batchat to play with, but Raspberry can just be lighting these guys up as they're leaving, and eventually the Super Conqueror and the Kronvine can get into a good hold down position. You can really take this one flag and pressure. The Skorpions might be able to just do it. So, I mean, just waiting and seeing exactly how this is going to happen. You have to abandon this. Eventually, you're going to maybe place a couple of tanks on the cap, but the situation is completely reversed. Normally, we see the tanks tucked in.
Put Raspberry on the cap here, surely.
No, you actually get Raspberry spotting. You put the Kronvine on the cap because the Kronvine's the best hold down tank. You get Napalmer playing Overwatch, and
you're talking putting them on the 1 flag. I was thinking maybe towards the 2 flag, but yeah, sure.
Nah, 1 flag for sure, because you've taken all this map control at the moment. 2 flag, it's still very dicey. I feel like 2 flag is very hard to take. 1 flag makes sense here because you can see all the tanks leaving. You can take a lot of this map control. You can force them into an almost untenable position. You can see that's exactly what they're doing right now. Knight needs to be cautious, though.
Yeah, you can't afford to be bleeding out any HP in a position like this one, particularly with Cindy and that bat chat just waiting for the opportunity to strike. If Knight goes any lower, peaks any higher.
Raspberry needs to be careful as well. I wanted to say he can't be making really risky runs like this. He needs to take a bit of a longer route. Obviously, he's trying to catch the timing, but the bat chat is still in a bush at the end of the day.
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to go down the dip, so he should be relatively okay to get into the A-line, and, you know, when you're in the A-line, it's generally relatively safe. There's lots of dips and bits of cover to work with there. He still hasn't spotted Cindy by the looks of things, but then similarly, I don't think Raspberry's been spotted. Now they both find one another, and that's critical information, but Raspberry, he's in a T100 LT trying to take a fight to a Batchat. That's not going to work out. He needs help. He's getting it, but is he getting enough of it in the end? Cindy... 1 shot left, not enough to get rid of Raspberry. Iron Guard's down to a 1 shot. We'll slide 1 more through, but in the end, it's a 1-for-1 trade, and Skorpions will surely be pretty happy with that. Batchat on the reload. They know they can just dump over onto Wymo right now, and they've got the crossfire established. CS63 on the flank, and that is going to be the end of Wymo.
Yeah, Napalm has already sent it the other way around, so Wymo's trying to dance around this house, trying to bait out Knight. He's done a pretty good job because this Kronvine's on reload. Wymo needs to be cautious. There it is. He's going to have a bit of a kiss with Aussie. Right onto the lips right there. Knight's still trying to figure out how to get this angle. But Wymo's really making this work, keeping this competitive right now. He should have 1 more shot into the Kronvine, but he bounces it. I mean, he had to get a bit lucky with the roll as well. When I say a bit lucky, he had to roll average.
Yeah, he would have been fine.
Sometimes, you know, tanks, is that when you need to roll average, you under-roll.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, Cindy, I mean, is this a clutchable scenario for him? If he can find an angle onto Napalm and blow him up, maybe. But I have to imagine this is just going to be impossible. Reinforcements come through. Knight and Aussie get on top of the hill. They should get 3 shots in, and they do. Cindy just survives, dodging that final shell, but puts himself down to a one-shot, and so Skorpions are going to need a whole lot to go wrong to drop this attacking side of Muro.
I mean, you have to pull off a Trax-esque kind of reset at the final couple of dying seconds onto a Cupola or an E5, but this time around, there's no Cupola to be sniped. There's 3 enemy tanks that are covering off all the potential scenarios, and there's also 2 now in the cap, and there it is. Knight's going to be able to spot out Cindy and clean him up. The Scorpions actually taking the lead 3-2. Doing it without JT, doing it without Russian, and they're still doing it.
And it's not technically a reverse sweep, is it? No. Well, it is, but it isn't. They're only 2 down. They weren't on. They weren't on match point against them. But this is very different to the Scorpions of old, and we kind of alluded to it right heading into Moravanka. Rarely win on the attack, but if ever there was a Knight, tonight is the Knight doing the crazy attacking side strats, and literally out of the gate, Kev, come the Scorpions, and 4 out of 5 dump over into the Magic Forest, and a couple of bat chats and what a light tank was something like, oh, didn't expect to see you here.
Pretty much. It's like, oh, I didn't realize there was a Super Conk, a Grindvine, really good run coming in from Raspberry, I think, who was playing that T100 LT to keep Rainbow. And we know what Rainbow can do in a T100 LT. To keep a player of that caliber suppressed, lit the entire time, and just to make sure that information wasn't spotted. Really good stuff coming out from the Scorpions, and that really helps them get this lead right now in Moravanka. That was their attacking side as well. They're going onto their defensive side in Moravanka with a 3-2 lead right now, with a really good chance to take this victory, not to force it into a ghost town tiebreaker, just to take an outright absolute victory, and to do it once again without, I would argue, their IGL, their captain, as well as like one of the best players this season, statistically wise so far, is very impressive. Team effort kind of showing what you can do with a team, not necessarily the individuals needed at this stage. We're starting to see some of these other stars stepping up to the plate. Aussie, we're talking about as part of the big 3, really stepping up the series so far, playing very well so far. And yeah, like I said, Raspberry, I felt like has been a big contribution factor, and Benny was obviously just a bit of a bait. So just keeping the 2 tanks interested.
Yeah, it was a cracker of a game, but things are getting close now, gents. Scorpions on match point. Probably didn't expect to see that. Wimo, again, top for the Sentinels. And again, you can just see these are the individual plays. Now, some of his individual plays, he hasn't won, right, from these individual plays necessarily tonight. You can't always win from your individual play, Jordan, but there was so many tonight already. And we saw it here again on Moravanka, where he gets so much more value than he's entitled to.
Yeah, I think it's been a across-the-board effort from the Scorpions, but it's also been a time where we've seen a few of the individuals step up, which has been pretty good to see. This was an interesting fight, by the way. Cindy and Raspberry going at one another's throats. I'm not sure how many shots Cindy actually ended up hitting there. I think it was probably only like 2, maybe. Because he did get Raspberry down low, but I thought he would have enough in the clip, but obviously wasn't able to connect his shots. By this stage, I think the game was more or less over. You know, Wimo, some heroics from him, to be fair. If he kills Aussie, I wonder if that changes the game a little bit. I don't think it does. I think Cindy's probably still pretty cooked, but it definitely makes it more winnable for him than what it actually was.
Yeah.
Overall, though, it was always going to be a Scorpions win there, to be honest.
I mean, the Bat Chat could then theoretically play around that 1 and 2, maybe try to get a couple of more resetting shots. A 1v2 in a Bat Chat, I mean, it's obvious. It feels less oppressive, but there's also less angles. There's less cap pressure, because as soon as you sit 2 tanks on the cap, it gets revealed. So maybe it could have been doable, but obviously it's hypotheticals. At the end of the day, 3-2 for Scorpions going to their defensive side. This is looking good for them, Ben.
It certainly is a chance to take down the Sentinels. They struggle, they fall at the final hurdle each and every time. Is tonight the night for the Sentinels? Monkey in, Rainbow out, that's a big one. And Russian in, Benny out for the Scorpions. So, look, kind of feel like that's a big one as well for them. So, everything on the side of the Scorpions right now, what are the Sentinels going to do?
I think, you know, this is where you kind of get the last, maybe one of the last chance for Season 3, just to tick off Safi and just go, Rainbow is now playing AoE 4. I don't think he was too happy with how that game went, so it might be a good reset opportunity for the Sentinels. Normally they can focus up after this. But similarly for the Skorpions, they definitely want to make sure that they can close this out, and that's why they're getting Russian back in. Maybe he's come back from something. Maybe they realize that the mullet's going out of style. They said, get rid of Benny. Mullets are completely gone. Lockdown's over. You can get a haircut.
Oh, the dream. The absolute dream. I mean, Skorpions on the defense here of Muro. Have to say, everything is looking like it should be leaning towards a Skorpion 4-2 here. Muro, very defensive-sided map. They've got a bit of initial damage out onto the Kranbagen and Wymo. They have a decent defensive setup here, and Sentinels are without their caller. Well, he talks about that being perhaps a factor for the Skorpions, but apparently it doesn't matter too much. And I can see that chat is having a lot of fun with it. So let's see where this one goes, Kev. I mean, it's a bit of a slower start, I guess, from the Sentinels. Cindy and Speed in the two bat chats are going to rotate their way perhaps down the one line. They could just send it onto that CS63 that's sitting in the E1 position.
He has been spotted, by the way, so it's going to be a bit tricky at this point in time where the bat chats can actually overwhelm, and you have to hope that the Super Conquerors as well as the Kranvans are able to get some fantastic shots in, because the commitment is going to begin onto Aussie. And I don't think he can fight for his right to survive. He just has to hope his teammates can land a couple of absolute blinders. You're seeing so many shots being missed at the moment. Oh no, this is not what you want as Aussie. He only cops a single one in return. That's the second one. He won't be able to get back to safety because he crashed into a house at the end.
He did indeed, but Cindy's a one-shot. I don't know if they're going to actually find that kill onto him, though. He looks like he's in relative safety, so still definitely a world where Skorpions walks away with a loss here, and we go to a tiebreaker. Knight does slide that shot through, though, onto Cindy, bearing in mind, of course, that Cindy and Speed would have been on the reload for the next 20 or 30 seconds anyway. This is not... It looks worse than it was for the Skorpions. It looked like they were in a 5-on-3, but in reality, they were kind of in a 3-on-3. And now they're almost in a 3-on-3 still.
Positioning-wise, honestly, Skorpions might still have the advantage. They've rotated the tanks, and now they understand they need to commit onto at least one of these targets. But Napalm has rotated across at the right time, just as the rest of the tanks dip in. But Russians clean up Speed. Even though Russian might go down, this is only the appearance. He might be just enough of a bait to get his team the victory. Here we go. Here comes the dump.
Yeah, well, Iron Guard is down low, 234 HP. Raspberry with that Kranvagen has one more shot. Does not manage to pen it, but Napalmer slides another one through from the flank again. And it's a 3-on-2, favoring the Skorpions. We are seeing the Sentinels, a once great team. A team that could not be defeated in the ANZPL, more or less get knocked out in 4th place. They should have been a team to go through to the grand final. Perhaps the argument could have been there for the Skorpions as well, that this should have been the grand final match. But the bigger they are, the harder they fall, Kev. And the Sentinels, they go from 1st place in Season 1 and Season 2 to ultimately finishing in 4th place in Season 3 at the hands of Skorpions, who has been one of their biggest rivals over the course of the 3 seasons of ANZPL. But inevitably, you know, all great things come to an end, and that is the dynasty of the Sentinels over.
Yeah, they do make playoffs 3 seasons in a row, but from back-to-back champions to 4th place for the Sentinels, going down to the Skorpions, who take them out in style, picking up 2 battle wins there on Muravanka. And what a fun way to finish that one off. It was certainly not a boring match by any means. It was a lot of attacking side wins, and the Skorpions full sending it in the end and coming out on top. You love to see it. When was the last time, gents, that the Skorpions actually beat the Sentinels?
Never.
Have they never done it?
No, I don't think they have. Season 2, it was like...
Yeah, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be Season 1? I would have to go back, but if anyone in chat knows, let us know. Why is Wymo always the last one left, by the way? You know what I mean? He's always the last one left at the end of each game. I'm just not putting it out there. I'm not saying that he's baiting his whole team.
You can call him a beta. He's a beta IRL and he's a beta in-game, I guess.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't dare say that.
Oh, I don't think you'd say that to Wymo's face, Jordan. But if
I
you do,
definitely
you're a brave
would
man.
I definitely would say it to his face. I think it would be good banter. But yeah, look, I mean, I don't know. I guess it is something that does crop up a little bit, isn't it? Wymo, the last alive in like almost every single one of these games, and fairly healthy at that time as well. To be fair, he did take the first couple of shots. He was pretty Chad just driving down the middle of the map initially there for the Sentinels. So you can't complain about that. At least they're on Muro, but some of the Himmelsdorf games maybe.
I think the big part here, Jets, by the way, is that Safi owes JT a whole bunch of KFC from what I heard. So congratulations, Safi. Thanks for giving that award across. JT, you'll appreciate it. All right, Kev, talk us through some of these replays. This did not start very well for Aussie, particularly when he ran to the house.
Yeah, Aussie, I mean, he was a dead man, I think, at that stage. Obviously, he bled out a little bit. His position was identified. But what was really good from the Skorpions was they were able to punish that cross in the bat chats. Very important they were able to punish it. And you can see how much damage that the bat chats just copped time and time again. Rotations came forward from the Skorpions just as Sentinels wanted to brawl. Sentinels took a little bit of time to figure out if they wanted to go high or go low. They eventually decided to go low, but at that stage, Skorpions, they took the high ground, and we already know where that goes. Once you have the high ground with the Crime Bar and the Super Conqueror, and that you just got Napper in the side, just chipping in, utilizing that DPM from the CS63, it's all over. And just like that, the Sentinels, I mean, I wouldn't say the dynasty is over just yet. It was very convincing from the Skorpions today in terms of not even having their IGL over here or their captain. Maybe JT was the problem. So Skorpions, so I think that's a bit of a redeeming factor and a bit of a huge mental block. And I think it's coming at a good time.
Yeah, I think let's be real. JT, super experienced player, has done a lot with this team, consistently have the Skorpions up near that top 4 as well. And the fact that they're able to take down the Sentinels does say quite a lot for them. For me, it's always been the pressure. They seem to struggle under pressure when they're, on match point themselves. They get reverse swept by the Sentinels when it matters. Sometimes they're just not there mentally. And tonight, third, fourth place match, the pressure's kind of off. You got a little bit of free reign. Doesn't matter so much whether you win or lose, and just trying to have a bit of fun. And that's kind of, I don't know, I think that's when this team kind of excels. So you need to find that sort of attitude in their week-to-week games. Obviously, we're not here in the Discord. We don't know what they're saying. Maybe we're putting this out of our ass and we're entirely wrong. But that's the feeling I get, Jordan. Like it always feels like the pressure for me is when the Skorpions struggle.
Yeah, look, I agree. I don't know. Again, like it's hard to say without being, as you say, involved in the communications, involved in the team itself. But I find that they're a team that really, like, they have really high peaks. They have weeks where I'm like, man, this could be a team that could actually win this season. And I said that probably a couple of times this season, actually. But when it comes to some really difficult matches, you watch them play and you're like, what on earth is going on here? So I'm not sure what it is. They just seem to capitulate sometimes. And hopefully that's something that's going to get nutted out for next season, because I still think, like, for me, obviously we're going to get a win through for Panthers or for Matildas. The fact that we've got 2 wins for Sentinels, now you'd probably make the argument that Skorpions and Bulldogs are the 2 teams out of these first 3 seasons that have ultimately felt like, aside from Sentinels, they quote unquote deserved a season win, but they haven't got it. Yep. So if Matildas sort of upholds their end of the bargain in that respect, I think they walk away with that. We say that's fair enough. I don't know that Panthers, you can make the argument and say, well, they deserve a win. I mean, obviously, if they walk away with the win next week, then yeah, sure. But for me, the top 4 teams of the first 3 seasons have been Sentinels, Bulldogs, Matildas, Skorpions. Could maybe make an argument for another team in there as well. But for me, right now, we're likely to get that win for the Matildas. We've got it for the Sentinels. Skorpions and Bulldogs feel like they've been missing out. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like, that's just where we're still sitting at the moment. So I want to see for season 4, like, Skorpions and Bulldogs kind of bounce back.
Yeah, well, I don't think it takes much for either of these 2 teams to bounce back, right? Top 4 is not a bad result. Coming through the regular season as first and second seed, not a bad result. I'd love to see more consistency from the Skorpions next season, even if their results leading into finals this season were good. The way in which they got there, the tiebreaker wins, the tiebreaker loss, whatever it might be, want to see that a little bit cleaner against some of those teams. But you can't fault third place. You can't fault their victory tonight over the Sentinels. So congrats to the Skorpions. Congrats to JT, who picks up 3 months worth of zinger from SAF. I think that's probably prefer that to the $10,000 because it's coming from Safi. What more could you want? We'll see is whether Safi disappears from the community again for another 10 years. I don't know.
I don't know if it's the case of the KFC that's hurting the SAF the most, or if getting it wrong hurts.
Getting
Safi
it wrong, and
more.
that's it. And that's why I say JT probably likes this more than first place, because it's not Wargaming paying out the cash, it's Safi paying out the cash. What more could you want? All right, let's go and take a look, recap tonight's results. Some fun games this evening, some exciting battles, and a couple of surprise results. I think particularly B-League Grand Final, the Wollongong Wolverines up against the Lismore Leopards. The battle of north of Sydney and south of Sydney. I don't know where the gong is. It's south of Sydney, right? It's on that way down. Whatever. I've only lived here for 5 years. Anyway, Lismore Leopards coming out on top, and they gave the Wolverines their first match loss of the season. Did so by picking up 4 maps, which is not bad at all. Went all the way down to the tiebreaker, and finally a defensive side win there for the Lismore Leopards. So congratulations to them on a great B-League result. And to the Wolverines, let's be real, they did really well all season long, just falling at that final hurdle. We know what that's like. We see how that plays out. And I think a fantastic season of B-League. So looking forward to more of that and seeing these players come through, or some of those washed up players realizing maybe I'm not as washed up as I thought I was anymore, Hayscale. We'll have to wait and see what next year has in store for him. Following that was the Sentinels and the Skorpions. We thought this was going to be our grand final next week. It was not to be. It was our third, fourth place match tonight. And the Skorpions coming out with the goods 4-2 with 2 battle wins there on Muravanka. We don't normally see the attacking side victory, that's for sure. So that was definitely exciting. That brings us through to our finals bracket once again. And just one match of ANZPL remains. That's our grand final next week. It's going to be on the Saturday. The Melbourne Matildas up against the Perth Panthers. Both of these teams have gotten to the finals in their own unique way. Either team is definitely capable of picking up the win next Saturday night. I don't know who I'm going to pick as my favorite. I think if I'm going with my head, it still says the Matildas based on their season. If I go with my heart, it's the run that the Panthers have had so far in the last few weeks, Jordan, and the way they took down the Sentinels last week. I don't want to say that they want it more, because the Matildas have won and they've won well and they've done what they needed to do, and they beat the Skorpions and they come through as the top seed into the grand final. But wowee, it's going to be a tight one, I think.
Look, I think that would be a reasonable argument if Sentinels was the team through to the grand finals and Panthers was playing against them. You could say Panthers probably want this more. Sentinels have already won a couple of seasons. Panthers are that hungry team that's coming through and really wants that win. Although then there would still be the argument that Sentinels is going for 3 from 3, and maybe that's enough to sort of motivate them. But that's not the case. I mean, Matildas themselves are a team that has come from absolutely nowhere. If I remember correctly, they were the team that came 9th in season 1.
Yeah, they came last in season 1.
So
I think they got one
the only
victory.
team to ever come 9th in ANZPL.
Yeah, and they're the only team that will ever come 9th. And they might also be a team that's actually going to be the only team to ever win season 3 of ANZPL, because their opportunity is next week. So to make the argument that Panthers want it more, I'm not sure necessarily is there for me. I would say I think Matildas is coming in as the favorite, in my opinion, as well. I mean, I think they've had a better season. They've looked like a bit of a better unit, though they did also sort of have their struggles. I just think they've also got stronger individuals in the roster, a bit more of a playmaking potential coming through from their star players. So that's something obviously that we can discuss a lot more in length next week. But to me right now, I think, definitely Matildas is looking like the team to beat. But Perth Panthers, I mean, they have continued to surprise us time and time again. And who's to say they won't do it one more time?
Yeah, and I want to get off, and we will get off that, the storyline of, the Panthers surprising coin flip victories, blah, 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 blah. They deserve to get here, and they've gotten here in style. So it's all down to next week. I have no idea what they're going to bring for us. Let's be real. Same with the Matildas. Both going to play their hearts out. 10,000 AUD is the first place prize. That's double second place. So a lot to play for, not just the cash, but obviously being able to go home and say, hey, we're the champions. Only the second team to win ANZPL, and the first team to win after the Sentinels went back-to-back. Not a bad place to be, that's for sure. Talking about winners and losers, gents, the casters' predictions. I was thinking I was looking pretty good tonight, to be perfectly honest with you, up until that last game. So we both pick up one, we drop one. Kev, if only you'd pick the Skorpions just to be different to me, so we could have all gone 1-1-1. You would have got 2, then you would have looked cool, but you don't look cool because, whatever. Any comments, any special comments for this, gents?
First one, obviously, I think ANZBL, actually, that was a fantastic series. Obviously, it's I'm a hypercritical guy. You know me at this stage. I want the perfect game of tanks from this god tier view. But I think that was actually a really entertaining series. If anyone missed out on, I think it's definitely worth a watch because a lot more you can take. It's a lot more applicable for people that are looking to grind up the game and kind of and look at what strategies are working at a bit of a lower tier. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of these players next season. The Skorpions versus Sentinels, maybe it wasn't the blockbuster finish that we wanted or expected, but it was still a good series nevertheless. It was, I don't know how Jordan found it.
Yeah, look, I thought the B-League game was quite fun. I would be in favor of watching more of the B-League.
We'll do it, bro.
No, I mean, like on this broadcast, like for the grand final, I think definitely something that we should continue to do, just because it gives you a good idea of the teams and the players that might be coming through to the next season of ANZPL. You know, that's I feel like a really good storyline to start to build. So I'm a fan of that. Skorpions, I got to say, I really did not. I didn't have faith after those first two games of Prokhorovka. I really was like, oh no, I've shot myself in the foot again here with this prediction. But they came good, so well done.
They did indeed, and they'll finish it off in third place. So that brings us through to next week's matches, our last matches of ANZPL Season 3, and our last match of the season, our last week of the year, our last whatever. It's a little bit sad, but it's going to be an absolute blast. So next week, our show matches. All right, show match team 1 versus show match team 2. I think that's nondescript. It's going to be fun, though. Whatever it is, they've got something in store for us. And that's kind of the prelude, right? We're just kind of, we're just warming up. Last season, it was pretty fun, I think. I enjoyed the show matches that we saw at Fortress. So that was pretty close. But definitely the grand final was the rip snorter of a game. And our grand final for ANZPL Season 3, the Melbourne Matildas up against the Perth Panthers. At this point, I think our analysis, gents, does not even matter because both of these teams have proven they don't care what we think, as we already knew. Let's be real. And both of them want this. Both of them deserve this. And either team could go home with the $10,000 in the ANZPL Season 3 champions next Saturday. So, again, if you are in and around Melbourne, don't forget that Fortress is hosting a watch party. They have that very cool Alienware Arena where we did have finals last season. Finals, obviously, due to COVID restrictions, online, but Fortress is open. You can get in there and you can grab a ticket. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Watch it on the big screen. Watch it down in the tavern, whatever you want to do. You need to register a ticket if you want to get in it. Yeah, exactly my favorite thing, Kev. Tiny.cc.
That's weird.
Sorry?
Why would you ever want to shake salt?
He is very salty. That's true. Tiny.cc/WOT watch party, or just do !Fortress in chat and you can click it to get your links so you can get your ticket. Doors open 6 p.m. It's Saturday, the 13th of November. It's not Friday. It's Saturday. It's Saturday. I guess the worst thing is that you turn up on Friday and it's not there, and then you find out it's Saturday. Better than the other way, right? So, been a blast this season. Looking pretty good, and very excited for next week's games. Any final remarks from you, Kev?
Did you guys know it's 50 days till Christmas?
No.
Now you know.
I did not.
No, whatever. I don't go Christmas shopping till mid-December anyway. Jordan, can you give us, before we go, a mime thing? Like, you're dressed up for it. People have been asking for it all night long. Come on.
How was that? That was pretty good.
All right. Thank you very much. About as good as JT's calling. All righty, guys and girls, that is it. Thank you to the B-League teams who played tonight. Congratulations to the Leopards and to the Wolverines, to be fair, for having a pretty good season. Our grand final next week on Saturday. It's the 13th. Don't miss it. 6 p.m. AEDT. Have a fantastic weekend and happy tanking.